It is a beautiful day in paradise, am I right? Howdy. Wait. There's my face, and there it is. Cool. Alright. Good morning. 8:08 a.m. on the eastern part of the United States. Been doing a lot more early streams, which I understand is probably not the most popular time to be streaming, but it is the time that I guess I'm ready to go and I'm ready to stream, so figure why not. I'm also unfortunately back on my my desktop where I'm using this camera, which is really bad, and in fact is so bad that I will probably be needing to get a new one. I'm not really sure why. You know, it's not working properly, at least the way it should be, because I don't know. I mean, I wanted a Dave & Buster's thing, so perhaps that's part of the reason. It's not like the best quality, so. And there is... I did stream on Thursday. I said I will probably not be streaming today, but I am streaming today because, what can I say? I love streaming. Man. Hopefully you guys are doing well. I'm a little salty because the Cavaliers lost last night. The basketball team, if you're not a NBA fan. They put out one of the worst performances I've ever seen from them in recent memory. But that's okay. We'll bounce back, beat New York eventually. Probably. I suppose we can get into it just right away. Why not? So, I saw this and was somewhat flabbergasted. Let me pull it up for you. So, apparently the party of small government, by the Conservative Party, is so small government that they want to allow local governments or communities to be able to prohibit their citizens from wearing specific clothing.
Wearing dresses and skirts be illegal for men in public, so should wearing pants for women be illegal in public? Well, pants not so much, because there is a female version of pants that is merely indistinguishable in many cases from male pants. But men wearing traditional female clothing in public, I think there's a case that local communities should stop that. Sure, I mean, we have local laws about being naked or indecent exposure.
Because those things are exactly the same. Being naked is the exact same thing as a man wearing a dress in public. Why does he look disheveled? Is that just me? This looks like a little Q&A thing. Is there anything else?
Fresh President DC.
Uh-oh.
Have I seen Kyle Dunnigan's Fresh President DC, where you choose Biden's butler noted Bennifer and the butler I found?
Oh, so there's nothing here. Nothing else, I mean. That's amazing. So yeah, again, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The Conservative Party in the United States is not really small government. They consistently vote in favor of expanding the military budget. They consistently want to restrict the freedoms of like women by making abortion illegal. They continuously want to restrict the freedoms of trans people, the trans community, by banning trans or gender-affirming care. And I guess the list could keep going because supposedly they even want to be able to regulate the type of clothing certain people wear. Very weird. Like, I wouldn't think that this is a pressing policy thing. That, like, this really doesn't make any difference in a community whatsoever. once more, the comparison being drawn between nudity and wearing female clothing is shocking, to say the least. I'm really not sure how else to characterize it. But that's what we're dealing with. Let's see. This is funny. Supposedly Trump released a thing basically saying that DeSantis has made Florida unlivable, or one of the least affordable states, raising taxes. There's a lot there. The real DeSantis record is one of misery and despair. He has left a wake of destruction all across Florida, and people are hurting because he spent so much time playing. Yeah, this is interesting, because there is I don't want to say a schism in the Republican Party right now, but there's certainly a divide between those who are hardline Trump supporters and those who are, like, in the DeSantis camp. There aren't really other candidates that I know in the Republican Party that are making a name for themselves in terms of their viability for being president. I can't think of anybody. Maybe, like, MTG, or I don't know, actually. Like, in terms of viability for president, yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah. The cost of living in South Florida has shot up by 10%. The language there is obviously inflammatory. The highest increase by far. Yeah, this is a lot of inflammatory language sprinkled in with hyperlinks, which I can't click on, but I don't know. Florida is now the 4th most expensive state in the country for healthcare and has highest annual car insurance premiums in the nation. Yeah, this is basically just a bunch of Florida is terrible, terrible, terrible. And it is at the behest of DeSantis. This, I don't know. I mean, like, this is timed pretty well considering the gasoline shortage or issues going on in Florida right now. I think that, like, that's starting to, like, get better, but it's still, like, kind of an issue. And this statement being released in, like, that times, around that same time that the gas thing is happening, doesn't seem like a coincidence. It seems like it was strategical. But yeah, as far as the GOP is concerned, I don't really know how. I don't want to make any affirmative statements one way or another, like predictions, I guess, for 2024. But right now, I think that Trump is leading in the polls. 538, the most trustworthy of all the places. When was this released? The 12th? Oh, this is 10 days old. That's like an eternity. But we can get a general sense. It shows the Trump receiving 49.3% of the vote. DeSantis 26.2. That's interesting. I will admit though, like early on, I really thought that DeSantis was going to be the clear front runner, get the nomination in 2024 guy. I actually didn't think Trump would be this popular. I mean, I probably should have seen it, I guess, but like, I don't know. I thought that the shift was going in the direction of DeSantis. Nikki Haley. Oh, forgot about her. Candidates ever support in polls taken the year before presidential primaries and their chance of winning the nomination in between 1976 and 2016. Specifically, when candidates are polling above about 30% nationally, they have historically had a decent chance of becoming a nominee. That chance increases the higher the polling numbers are. On the flip side, though, candidates with polling below around 20% have been pretty unlikely to win, and those polling below 10% are usually doomed. So, yeah, I don't know. Feels more and more likely that Trump will be the nominee. However, there are some legal things that need to be ironed out in the meantime. Those legal things, I don't know to what extent it could influence his ability to run. I'm pretty sure it doesn't really have a major impact. I'm sure you can, I think that you can run for president even if you're in prison. Pretty sure. Yeah, I don't know. This whole divide between Trumpians and DeSantis people, I guess, is kind of interesting. Yeah, I mean, like, if we look at them individually, like what they represent, Trump is somebody who I think just cares more about himself and like the applause that he solicits throughout the crowd, and DeSantis is like a honest to God true believer, like will round up all the trans people to execute them. Like I think that he represents a more sincere version of this radical wing of the Conservative Party than Trump does. I think Trump is more so motivated not through the ideology itself, but the recognition that serving that kind of ideology brings about. So, yeah. I also saw something else. Dude, the Daily Mail is like really fucking biased. I don't really pay attention to a lot of this shit, like and like the credibility of every single like news outlet, but every time I look at the Daily Mail, it's always heavily editorialized. Is there like a... Okay. I would like a neutral site to read this because I need to understand something. Okay, Bloomberg it is, I guess. So, oh, do I really have to pay? That's awesome. Amazing. Oh. What was the one that this guy... Am I allowed to read this? Okay. I would like to know the rationale behind... So, okay. The Bud Light marketing team is undergoing changes. Now, I'm not sure to what extent this was influenced by the outrage of conservatives. The timing obviously suggests that it is correlated, but I'm not sure. So I'd like to know. So, marketing VP for the brand since June 2022 has taken a leave of absence. The brewer confirmed and will be replaced by Todd Allen, who has most recently did not immediately respond to an email requesting comments. The brewer has also streamlined its marketing function to reduce layers so that our most senior marketers are more closely connected to every aspect of our brand's activities. Okay, that could mean a bunch of different things. A company spokesperson said in a statement, adding that these steps will help us maintain focus on the things we do best, brewing great beer for all the consumers while also making positive impact. So this could go either direction. So obviously some conservators are taking a victory lap over this, and it absolutely could be the case that is warranted. But this could also mean that they want to be more inclusive. Like, this could be anything, really. I think the point of the language being employed here is to be vague. The statement noted that we communicate some steps with our internal systems, our internal teams, and wholesale partners, adding that we made it clear that the safety and welfare of our employees and our partners is our top priority. Okay. So basically I derived nothing from this article. This is just them going over the controversy here. The controversy appears to have impacted sales. Bud Light cases down 10%. As far as the stock prices are concerned, this could definitely be true, and if so, then okay. But like, as far as the stock price is concerned, it doesn't seem like to have had much of an impact, at least that I remember. In the podcast, which was recorded before the controversy, denounced Bud Light's previous marketing as fratty and out of touch, and suggested that the brand could use more inclusivity. Yeah, I think that makes sense. Beer is usually associated heavily with masculinity, I think. So that's fair, I think. According to a statement from city distributors at Topeka, Kansas-based, whatever, the custom decision circumvented the proper approval channels. Bush was silent on the matter for 2 weeks before issuing a statement, who wrote that we never intended to be part of a discussion that divides people. Oh, okay. Yeah, so basically I'm not really getting much information as to why this took place, or why the marketing leadership underwent some changes. I'm not sure why that was the case. So I can't really say much about it. Yeah. If it is the case that they changed it on account of conservative outrage, that would obviously be somewhat disappointing. But yeah, I don't know. Oh, man. Alright. I think now we can move forward with the main thing. We'll watch a debate. I haven't done a debate react in a fat minute. I also haven't played a certain game in a fat minute. Hopefully the updates are good. The camera just keeps freezing so much that I might have to, like, just take it off, which is extremely disappointing. Oh, cool. Now I can play... Okay, cool. Right. So let's get into it. Yeah, you see what I mean? This is why, like, I need a new camera. Alright. Let me open up the game. I haven't played Diablo 2 in a while. Well, that's that. Let's see here. Okay, cool. Let me get the UI set up. I have no offlines. That's actually weird. We can just start new, or new, whatever. This will be offline, so the frame rate should be better. Whatever. Okay. Alright, whoa. Wrong thing. Okay. I will be right here. Maybe. We'll see. And then this will be okay. We'll put it right there.
Good day.
And then for my sake, whoa. Oh man, I gotta get used to these controls. It's been so long. Okay. So, alright, I think we're gooch. So, alright. Destiny, who is an online streamer, debate lord, and all that fun shit, went on a panel and debated Alex Jones, who is known to be crazy. And I'm just here for the memes, so let's do it.
Destiny!
Luke, so what should be banned from social media?
Wait, hold on. Let me make sure the audio is clean.
Nothing. Let people choose what they want to see. I think we're all adults here. If something's bad,
Okay, that looks fine. I'll have to rewind because I wasn't even paying attention. Okay. Let's do it to it.
Luke, so what should be banned from social media?
nothing. Let people choose what they want to see. I think we're all adults here. If something
Wait, what? Nothing should be banned from social media? Hey boys, you know what? Child pornography is back on the menu, if it ever was on the menu to begin with.
is bad, the audience and the market will speak for itself. Obviously, you know, there's the concept of hurting children. That obviously is an exception. Obviously, there are government institutions that run international child trafficking organizations. So obviously, are you going to entrust those organizations?
Dude, who is this guy? Like, you've got to be deep in the Kool-Aid here to be believing the things that he is saying. This is incredible. I'm not gonna deny that there's the possibility that there is crazy fucking shit going on at major institutions. I'm sure that's the case, but I don't know. Speaking as though it is fact with I don't know, just kind of weird.
To go after that, that's another question and conundrum that I think a lot of people are asking themselves. But other than the exception of children being hurt, I think we are adults and we could actually decipher and decide what we...
So what about I'm sorry, but what what would this man say against like viruses or spam? That's not like hurting children necessarily. It doesn't have to be hurting children. It could be just
Want to listen to and don't
Bad.
want to listen to. Treat us like human beings. We shouldn't be treated like babies.
Sling TV is the best place
Okay.
to watch live sports, news, and entertainment. Starting at $40.
That's a big box though. Like what can hurt children is a
right.
big, you know.
Well, well,
now
the obvious one is, of course, being sent to Jeffrey Epstein's island or being trafficked by.
Dude, what's that to do with social media? What is he talking? He's just like saying stuff. It doesn't actually have to make sense.
Many of the intelligence agencies.
Just to be clear, the prompt was regarding what should be banned off social media or what should not be allowed on social media or whatever. And the answer substantiated through what he said is like, harming children, and harming children is when you get sent to Epstein's island. Well, what's that have to do with social media?
And sent off to individuals like Bill Gates and others who get to do
What?
whatever they want with them. I think that's the distinction there.
You would say
This-
that you should ban child porn.
Yes.
What about like? Okay, well, what do you?
Let's get a round of applause for that. Banning child porn. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, this is like really pathetic. Like, obviously, this should be a conversation regarding things that are a little more controversial or things that there's more nuance behind. But this guy's like, I think we should ban like snuff porn on. Like, okay, yeah, no shit, dude.
But the next question though is who's gonna do the banning?
God, we have a lot of shit going on.
I think it should probably be human beings should be doing the banning and not an algorithm or a bot or something like that. I think these should be.
What a retarded thing to say. Does she not recognize the amount of content that gets published to every social media platform on a daily basis, on an hourly basis? There's no way a human being can sift through every single tweet that gets reported, or every single post that gets reported, or every single video. Like, it's not possible. So there needs to be some degree of I don't want to say AI necessarily, but there has to be something here, like a machine learning program to. It's not perfect, but it's probably better than having a human being go through every single thing. It's just not possible.
Human beings checking this stuff out and taking a look for child porn, if that's what we're looking to ban.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like AI can help find it, but have a human layer of protection.
It always has to be a human layer of protection, especially when we're talking about something as sensitive as actual free speech.
So, I think that there should be a thing that you can if you think your video was unjustly removed from AI or something, then you should be able to send a report to the company or something, and then a human being can be responsible for looking it over and thinking oh, this was actually flagged a false positive. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of nuance behind this that needs to be recognized.
The issue with putting a human in charge is that, firstly, definitions can change. So it's porn today might be normalized in 10 years. And secondly, they have the keys so that they can put their foot on the gas when they want to, take it off when they don't.
What?
You're talking about standards, which we are lacking as a culture right now in a society, and we do need standards.
So that doesn't mean anything. Standards, what do you even mean by that, and how is that relevant to the discussion we're having? Standards are already outlined with respect to certain social media platforms. This is outlined in the TOS itself. So I don't know if she is trying to steer the conversation away into something more broad about society, which it seems like she is, or if she just doesn't understand the concept of TOS. I'm not sure.
That's something that I think is paramount.
Do you think that the community can function as a form of algorithm, like a human consciousness, so we don't have to rely on algorithmic code? We can let the people somehow.
Damn, that is a
together?
good
I
early
don't know
weapon.
what that looks like.
Like a jury. I mean, we have a jury system in
Like a
mind.
jury?
I say we literally, but because Bill's been running the company, not me. But yeah, there's a jury. If something gets up for banned, then and they want to appeal the act, it'll go to a group of people to decide.
That's an interesting concept. What kind of jury? Like a grand jury that would be potentially impaneled?
It's a randomized set of active users who aren't connected to each other to tried to decrease bias, but yeah, we try to keep ourselves in check with the community.
I mean, I think the issue, I don't know if we're talking like in a dream world or as it exists right now. I think the problem is once a platform grows to a certain size, having a human element in moderation is just like prohibitively expensive. I think that's why for, Jesus, over a decade, when did Steam start automating their bans? I think having like human people involved in every single moderation action just becomes prohibitively expensive for any sufficiently large tech company, I think.
But we need the protection of human interpretation in order to secure free speech. I mean, without
Not necessarily. There are algorithms that could be theoretically programmed to where it doesn't like. All it does is it's adhering to the TOS, right? So it's really incumbent upon the TOS people, like I guess the people who write the TOS, whatever, to ensure that freedom of speech or whatever is enshrined, I guess. Even though it's a private company and they can limit, restrict, or allow whatever they want. So this is kind of a weird conversation to have to begin with.
free speech, we really have nothing at all. It's like pretty much the only thing that matters.
This is such a stupid fucking thing to... Like, I honestly don't... Do they even hear what they're saying when they talk? No, it is not the only thing that matters. Having limitations on what you can say, like, you can't, like, call people the N-word, like, you should... Like, this is, like, so fucking big. Like, there should obviously be a nuanced conversation about this, but they're reducing this down to, like, freedom of speech is absolute... Like, this really does remind me of, like, the conversations that free speech absolutists have. Like, everything should be on the table. You can say the N-word. You can't do anything obviously bad, like, you know, propagate child pornography or whatever. But, like, I don't know. It's just... Okay. There's a lot of nuance here that isn't being addressed.
I mean, well, I think there's a lot of things that matter besides free speech. But I guess the question becomes, like, is it a company's job to safeguard what I guess we're using in common parlance free speech, because we're not really talking about the First Amendment right now. Should it even be a company's, I guess, prerogative to guard free speech, right?
I was talking pretty much about the First Amendment.
Well, the
Which I
First
do
Amendment
think is
says
pretty
nothing
paramount.
for being banned on, like, Twitter or YouTube, right?
Well, because of like the whole private company thing.
What?
Well, because it's not the government thing. Right?
Yeah, but you don't have to be the government to censor.
Well, no, but you're violating their free speech by demanding that they're not allowed to censor, right? That's the whole point of having freedom of speech, is that the government shall make no law abridging somebody's freedom of speech. If Twitter doesn't want to host your speech, Twitter has the right to do it.
Censorship goes far beyond, like, just, I mean, companies, look, here's the thing. It doesn't matter if it's just the government. I mean, censorship can happen at a non-governmental level.
Yeah, but then it wouldn't be the First Amendment, because the First Amendment is about the government. If we want to talk about other types of censorship, we can, but the government is governed by the First Amendment, right?
The term government really means mind control. You know, mente is like Latin.
Dude, shut the fuck... Who let these people on the panel? They're not even... They should be in an institution where they get, like, fucking scheduled meals and shit. Like, they should not be at a professional panel talking to other people. This is, like... I don't know. They shouldn't even have, like... I feel like I'm being a little authoritarian, I guess. And maybe I am, but... Jesus Christ, dude. These people can't even get... Like, I'm surprised they even get dressed in the morning. Like, the shit they say is, like, insane.
Latin, I think, for mind, and govern is Latin for to control. So, like, look at what the
Gets
system
applause.
of control is. And at this state, it's an algorithmic code or multitude of codes that are governing the way we behave. So you...
Okay, literally nothing he is saying is making sense and should be interpreted as reality. Like, actually, there's nothing here that makes sense. Like, what do you even say to this, you know? Like, somebody who's this far gone, like, I don't know. This is such a stupid... such a fucking stupid, combo to have.
You could make an argument that we would amend the Constitution to include other forms of government than the political
Well, when
system.
Clarence Thomas has a brief that he writes to the Supreme Court about whether or not the government is mind control, I'll take a look at that, I guess.
You tell him, Ian. But I think we're learning right now with Twitter specifically that free speech is popular. And when we look at the censorship of speech, it is the government's hand in these companies, and they know that it's not profitable for them to destroy someone's speech. And this is what they've been doing. They've been going to YouTube. They've been going to Facebook. They've been going to Alphabet and all these companies and saying, you know what, we're going to make sure that you guys are going to lose business, and we're going to silence people because we don't like them. And I think right now Twitter is certainly...
Okay, hold on. They're not... First off, silence... come on. Don't be a pussy. You're not being silenced. Also, if you break TOS... This is really simple, by the way. If you break TOS, then you get suspended or banned. So... Don't break TOS? Like, I'm really flabbergasted by why this is like a difficult concept to grasp.
challenging that notion that
Oh, yeah,
speech needs to
need
be
more
protected,
stamina.
needs to be censored, because I think they're doing better than ever. I think the platform is thriving. I enjoy the platform personally myself, speaking from a biased perspective, but I think they're really showing and leading the way, saying free speech is the answer, and it could also be profitable, and it could also be successful at the same time, allowing a perfect harmony of profit and respect of individuals to speak their mind.
I think something that I spoke about earlier, real quick, was when we have these conversations, I think it's very important that we're firmly rooted in reality. And conservatives have this mantra that they, I guess, repeat to themselves at midnight in the mirror with all the lights turned off, that go woke, go broke, go woke, go broke, go woke. It's not true.
It is true.
It's absolutely not true.
It is
These
true.
companies on.
I'm sorry, but it depends on what he means, like Destiny. Like, so go woke, go broke. The best interpretation of this is like, if you do something that we don't like, we're going to boycott the company. Now, usually this is at the behest of any kind of progressive, you know, or rather perceived progressive advancement on the behalf of whatever company, right? But like in principle, boycotting and like protesting whatever can be effective. Like it, perhaps not for larger companies like Amazon, Budweiser, or Disney, but definitely like in principle it could work. So it's not like an insane like thing, you know, or it's not like a thing that isn't like viable at certain levels.
Online that are engaging in
Vanguard
censorship.
just pulled back and said, after a decade of pursuing ESG, is the third most powerful investment firm in the world, we are leaving ESG.
We're
It
not
is
ESG.
woke.
We're not talking
Yeah,
about
it
ESG.
is.
Please, God,
This
don't,
is
let's
what
not do
woke
finance
is.
or no. We're not
Environmental,
talking about
social
ESG.
governance.
The reality
What do you
is
think
that
social is?
The reality is that online, having aggressive moderation platforms that are trying to ban speech that a lot of you guys want to protect, that I want to protect, that I think is cool to protect, is actually a pretty profitable decision. If it wasn't, they wouldn't do it.
What about in
Can I ask you a
publishing? What about in publishing
Well,
on social media?
Sorry, but like private companies don't always act in their best interests. A lot of the times they'll do things that are irrational because, I mean, the people who are running it are people and they're fallible and they're not rational. Businesses aren't this like the thing I don't understand. Like, people treat businesses like this perfectly rational like entity, but it's not always the case. They do shit that's stupid all the fucking time. So like, while yes, it is like financially, like, they will do whatever is in their best interest, but at the same time, there are certain things that aren't always financially viable that they might do also. And sometimes it is advancing progressive beliefs, and sometimes it's not. But I guess the main point here is that it's not always, like, a company isn't always going to, like, operate in their own best interest, like, all the time.
What about censorship in publishing?
I don't know as much about books.
If a private company is acting on behalf of the government in censoring speech, is that a violation of the First Amendment?
If the government was telling people to censor people, I guess
That
it
is
would
what
be.
happened with Twitter over the last
Well,
2 years.
we saw that. Sure. So we saw that with the Twitter files, that is absolutely not the case. If you actually read any of them, past the actual tweets, the government was not making explicit requests to censor political speech on Twitter. That did not happen.
patently false. It's patently false. It's patently false.
Patently.
Is it okay for the government to ask a company to censor?
Well, it depends on what the censorship request is for.
No,
If it's for stuff
that
if
is
it's
a
for
yes or
stuff
no
that-
question.
listen,
Is it okay for the government to ask the company to censor?
Wait, I'm sorry. Do these people not recognize the fact that the First Amendment, like, it's not like you can do literally whatever you want or you can say whatever you want, and like there are some restrictions on freedom of speech. A classic example of this would be like yelling fire in a crowded like movie theater.
It depends on what you're trying to censor. If it's somebody making a death threat, yeah, that's probably okay. If it's pictures of Hunter Biden's cock, which I know you guys are all real excited about, it's probably okay. Yeah, it depends on what the censorship request is. Yeah.
So, okay, keep going with that. So when
Keep going with Hunter Biden's cock.
is withheld from disclosing a story that could be detrimental to a presidential candidate, and they did not carry that
damn,
same
those archers
treatment
are
to
tough.
the other side, and it was not just Hunter Biden's cock. It was the fact that there was a potential that there was illegal drugs, there was underage prostitutes,
Why do they care? He's a private citizen. Like, shut the fuck up.
there was a whole slew.
There was influence peddling.
It's his son. Who gives a shit about his son who's involved in his business dealings, who gets $50,000 a month working for Burisma in a country that we have a proxy state set up? How is that not involved with Biden? Are you kidding me?
And there are major polls and
So the reality is, and I highly encourage you guys to read the Twitter files because I don't think anybody up here actually has. If you actually read the emails where they discuss banning content, it wasn't the government told us to censor this story. The government never made a request to Twitter to censor the Hunter Biden story. That was testified to under oath multiple times by multiple people at Twitter. It is not the case that that story was censored because of the government. It was a complicated internal conversation that Twitter had amongst themselves. You can read the conversations. They're
So
published
basically
in the
what you're saying is that Twitter's self-censored.
Yes.
So a climate of self-censorship does come from a government level.
No.
Yes, it comes
No,
from
it doesn't.
government intimidation. Yes, it
Were
does.
there or were there?
Hold on,
This is historic.
If it came from government intimidation, why did Twitter only adhere to like 37% of the requests the government actually made?
Just because they didn't go along with 100%, according
Oh
to
my
your
God.
candidate,
So the
that
government
doesn't
can
mean
only
it.
intimidate you 37% of the time?
I think it's a valid question.
No,
and
it's
I
not a
think
valid question. That
yes,
was
it is.
ridiculous.
No,
If an
it's not
FBI
at all.
agent is outside
and I think
my house,
I think that
and
we
I have
see that there was government intimidation at Twitter, and I think that you can see that in the Twitter files.
No, you
I
can't.
think
Where?
that you saw that with
Where do you see
regard
that
to. I don't have it in front of me.
Okay, well, I read them, okay?
Okay.
And I'm telling you that they did not intimidate them. I have had conversations with the FBI. If the FBI was outside my house, they're going to intimidate me more than 37%
Can I ask
of the
you a
time.
I have an uncle who works for the FBI too.
question? Were there any emails in the Twitter files between a government actor, bureaucracy or elected official,
it.
and Twitter's
Took the wrong
executive
turn.
team?
Yes.
Is that not highly problematic when the requests coming from
Hmm.
government involve political candidates? Yes or no?
It depends on the request. If it's to
How?
if it's to send
How? How?
Do you think it is essential that uncensored pictures of Hunter Biden's dick remain on Twitter?
When he's
Answer
the
that
son,
question. Answer that
yes.
question.
When
Okay,
he
that's
is
where
the
we're at right now.
son,
That's where the conversation
What?
it's the New York Post. It's not like it's the porn outlet that's posting these pictures. The second oldest journalistic output in the United States broke a story. Government emailed Twitter's executive team what happened 2 weeks out from the election. Then they delete the story of the New York Post. So how is that not
the New
a
York
company
Post-
acting on behalf of the government to violate the First Amendment of a journalist? How is that not the case?
Because Twitter never said that they deleted that post because of the government.
And you believe
I
them?
just want to clarify.
Why do you
Hold
not
on.
believe them? You're reporting from the Twitter files.
Let's
What do you cite?
let's stop screaming. Let's try to understand each other and let's because we're getting a little bit crazy. We're getting a little
Real quick,
rambunctious.
just so we're on the same
Let's
page.
get a little civil.
How many people up here actually read
Wow.
the actual tweets? Not just
What a
the headline.
clusterfuck.
Thank you, Matt Taibbi.
Okay, so we've got two people.
Okay, but we got a special guest joining us.
There must be a lot of conservatives here because the reactions from the crowd seem very disproportionate.
I just want to ask you the question.
Steven requested
They
that
told
we
me-
had Alex on tonight, so I thought,
They told me to get here at 8 o'clock. I didn't even like go on stage at 8. So I'm only 30 seconds late. Sorry.
Alex, do you think that what was the exact question? Do you think that there's things that should be censored online, Alex? I guess, how do you want to ask it, Steven? How would you ask Alex this, where we're at right now?
I'm not even sure what I would ask Alex right now.
I would just go back to 5 years ago where violent threats, specifically calling for violence, which is illegal already, and child porn and stuff like that, and people's hacked personal information. Those things are illegal. Things that are illegal, not our free speech.
Wow, what an amazing, insightful commentary from Alex Jones. Wow. He is dropping bangers like things that are illegal are illegal.
Really simple.
Do you think that there are things that where it's like it's legal but unethical that should be pulled down?
No, I mean, I think it should be the Wild Wild West. That's what America and freedom is.
That's really retarded. By that logic, basically, you could just go into like any city, commit murder, and then leave. because that's basically like what. Well, I don't know for sure. I guess I wasn't alive back in the Wild West, but there are certainly accounts of people or bandits or whatever the fuck you want to say. People just literally going into towns and killing others. Like, I mean, for God's sake, they make Western films out of that shit.
And once you open the Pandora's box, everybody is going to say this is evil, and other groups are going to say that's evil. Conservatives are going to say ban this. Liberals are going to say ban that. This group's going to say ban this, and then it's special interest banning what they don't like. No, that's not what I want. I'm a big enough adult that I want to see everything. People say, well, then don't let the kids see it. Ban TikTok. No, don't let your kids on TikTok be their parent.
What is your okay? So I'm curious.
The real libertarian has entered chat.
What is your enforcement mechanism? You want to go to Twitter and you want to say you're not allowed to deplatform certain speech or ban certain actors. What do you want to do to keep them from doing that? Do you want to make it illegal for you to ban people that you disagree with, that do hate speech? Like, what does the enforcement mechanism look like there?
Well, hate speech is really just a modern corporate name. I mean, when the media, when U.S. senators call for nuclear war with Russia, to me that's hate speech. But they still have a right to say that and be crazy people calling for World War III. So one person's hate speech is somebody
Nobody's
else's love
calling for
speech.
World War
So
III.
as long as somebody isn't saying go shoot this up or go attack this group, let the KKK, who are a bunch of idiots, or let the new Black Panther Party, they're basically a black KKK group, let them sound like idiots off in their own little echo chamber. We know what they're saying. We know what they're doing. We're watching them in case they're about to get violent. Everybody knows in all the studies, you suppress speech, it puts stuff underground. You want it, the old American idea that was really the vanguard.
Okay,
that was
this
the
is really dumb.
Renaissance. We call it
How
old
the
now,
fuck?
but really it's
Where
a new
is this
thinking.
fucking
What we
door?
forgot about it, went back to the old
The
thinking,
exit.
tyranny, is to let everything out there and believe in the public to choose what makes sense. And in that world, whether it's the new Black Panther Party or the KKK, we're going to reject those idiots and we're going to embrace a civilization.
And you
but again,
radicalize,
what
you
is-
do radicalize more people by censoring speech, and you put them off into farther corners of the internet where they become more radicalized, and that's why a more honest, transparent conversation.
I don't know if that's as true as people make it out to be. It certainly could be true, but like I feel like people who are radical are already deep in like the rabbit hole in spite of loose regulation. Like I don't think the restriction of certain rules and shit are gonna make somebody go even further down whatever, right? Like if they're already having those kind of predilections, then they're gonna be looking for that shit regardless of if it's allowed on mainstream platforms, you know?
And dialogue where we're able to have actual clarity on the issues and actually fix the wrongs and actually discuss the problems actually helps fix the larger issues that we're dealing with
Yeah, but
rather
again,
than
what is the
censoring them.
enforcement mechanism? How do you keep Twitter from banning people that you don't want banned? What do you think should be done?
I think Minds is doing a great job. I think the way that Minds conducts itself,
Are we
I
up here
think the
talking
way
about
that
what to do about other
I
social
think the way
media?
No,
that
I get it. I
they
get it.
decide these decisions is
You're
a great
asking,
way
how
to
do we
address
do
it.
that? I mean, I think as a population, we have big corporations, we have think tanks, we have so-called fact-checking groups pressuring Twitter and Facebook and Instagram and Google and all its subsidiaries to censor. And I think as a population, we reject and we boycott and we stand against censors and we promote the platforms that are open and free. And then again, just 5-10 years ago, if a conservative got censored, the left was against it. If the
Perfect.
left got censored, the right was against it. We have to go back to being unified and saying our speech is king. Our right to see and watch and listen to what we want is paramount, because you're not censoring Alex Jones, or you're not censoring Luke Rudowski, or you're not censoring Jack Posobiec, or you're not censoring Tucker Carlson, or Naomi Wolf, or whoever it is. When you censor them, you're censoring our ability to hear what they're saying.
But you're also censoring
No.
anyone else who might speak up. So that's a big.
Once again, what do we mean? So we need to be very careful with the terminology we use. So when you say censor, what does that actually mean? Does it mean like, oh, they kicked me off this platform? Because if that's the case, then why did you get kicked off the platform? Did you break TOS? Like we need to be very careful with what we're actually talking about when we say like, you know, like we're being censored, you know? Yeah, I think that's an important thing to clarify. Because to conservatives, censoring is like literally like, oh, I called somebody tranny on Twitter and now I'm like suspended, like, okay. you use profanity. That makes sense.
Thing too. I mean, a liberal value, a very classical liberal value, was that even if you disagree with someone's speech, you'll defend their right to express themselves. And that's a value that we need as Americans, and that's a value that we need online.
Exactly. Remember?
Again, it depends on. So, yeah, you can say stupid shit, but like, don't get mad when you get banned because you broke TOS. Like, that's the distinction there.
When the liberals and the Jewish law firms used to support the KKK marching? I mean, those liberal law firms.
Dude, Kanye got into his head. I think, yeah, this is a panel, so I think he's going to be a little more off the cuff.
There's a murder she wrote about that.
Absolutely. I mean, they didn't support the idiot KKK, but they said we got to let these morons march or we lose all our rights, which was true.
And it's true now on Twitter.
It is.
I think sometimes there's a responsibility for the authority to crack down if like child porn goes up. Like the admin has to take that offline. That means some central authority needs to snag that.
It's illegal.
Exactly. And spam, it's not illegal, but it's unethical. So some central authority's got to crack it. But it's
But what's central authority when the FBI has been uploading a lot of the content as well, and they've been running international trafficking
So, I don't... Okay, where's he getting his information from, first off? Second off, there are certainly cases where, like, the FBI or law enforcement will create honeypots to lure in, like, pedophiles or something, so that way they can break up the ring itself. If that's what he's referring to, then man, like, I don't know, man. I mean, like, it's not like they're actually uploading, like, CP or doing shit, like, illegal, like, the law enforcement themselves. It's a honeypot. So, they're, like, by definition, they're not doing that, actually.
operations like with Epstein for over 30.
Building your online business?
Dude, everything comes back to Epstein.
And
30+ years. How do you trust those
He's like the
same
final
people
boss
to
of
actually monitor?
pedophilia.
Lewandowski's right. How do we have the FBI that protected Epstein now being the policeman of child porn? I mean, I really think it's all up to us.
Sorry.
Yeah, I think it doesn't scale. That's
Why are we talking about this? Like, this has nothing to do with
the
anything.
masses like Twitter, because
They're just, like, going on a tangent.
for one guy to take control, whether that's the government or the head of state. So I think you need to decentralize the authority somehow as the system grows.
Okay, this
And
is
if that can
annoying.
be written into the system, the larger it gets, the wider the net of judges that can make the decision in aggregation.
Well, remember Elon Musk, like last week, that viral BBC clip? And he goes, okay, give me one example of what you're saying. He goes, well, it's a little bit mean or it's a little bit sexist. And he said, well, then how do you define what a little bit is? Soon everything is banned except what you want to be heard. I mean, it's impossible. And here's...
Just a quick reminder that conservatives don't... Like, when they say free speech, what they mean is, like, they want to say the N-word on social media without being banned. And because they're also very... self-involved or self-aggrandizing, they'll also try to like act as though they are victims to a woke mob anytime they engage in any form of bigotry online. So it's not just like I want to call trans people trannies or I want to call black people the N-word. Like, it's not just that. They also want like the social capital to get away with saying shit like that.
Here's the thing. We all know this. You all know this. I remember Joe Rogan in like 2000 in Houston, and I'm watching him in a packed comedy club, and he said, mark my words, within 10 years, Hollywood and corporate media are going to
I gotta get the waypoint before I do that.
There's so many voices, so many choices, it can never compete with that level of Wild West freedom. And
that
if you
was
go
always...
back to 2010 and the numbers, that's really when corporate media died. That's really when Hollywood died. It's got endless funding and backers, but it's a zombie organization. It's already gone. So any attempt to bring in AI, any attempt to suppress us, any attempt to shut down their competition is like a ghost dance. They're fighting a war they've already lost. So let's understand that. No amount of AI, no amount of...
Okay, just as a side note, anytime, like, something I've noticed, like, when people start going on, like, these side tangents and they talk about, like, endlessly a bunch of shit, it really just makes me feel like they're just... It's like word diarrhea. They're just, like, spewing it all over the place without, like, any thought. Like, even if it doesn't, like, fit well within the conversation broadly, they just keep talking about shit that they've, like they've read or found on like page 19 of some random far-right website. Like, I don't know, they just like keep going on and on about like random shit that's like tangentially related.
of BS is going to stop us because AI is just plagiarism of everything we already made. So
Damn,
we
that shit's
program
tough.
the AI ourselves. So when the viewers and listeners of this show realize you're not the tail, you're the dog, and then when you produce culture,
Like, right now, he's just going on about
that's your
shit.
defense mechanism to make sure you program the system.
Steven, do you think Alex should be let back on Twitter?
I don't want to be let back on Twitter. I like being the black sheep.
What was his specific ban for? Was it for the time?
You know, that's a very important point you brought up. I was not banned for the thing everybody hears about me for. I was banned for criticizing Oliver Darcy,
I was banned for telling the truth.
the mini-me, Brian Stelter. And it was actually Tim Pool, who was on with Joe Rogan and the head of Twitter, Jack Dorsey, and I forget how you pronounce
Vijay
it.
Gotti.
Yes. And they said he beat up a child on TV, and he was mean to a journalist, Oliver Darcy. And he called for using battle weapons against
Okay.
Antifa. None of that ever happened. They showed some random dude on ABC News when a kid's hitting him, and he in Missouri, and the guy looks a little like me, and another fat dude with a beard. He hits him. He
I must be
falls
very
down. That's
underleveled.
not me. That was talking about deep fake. It wasn't even a fake video. It wasn't me. And then I saw Oliver Darcy. He was everywhere getting me banned. I was still on Twitter. And I said, "How dare you get me banned everywhere, man? You're a jerk." The video's out there still.
He's so fucking mad.
The other thing was,
Ah.
yeah, I'm Bill Hicks. No, that's because they got to ban Bill Hicks. But the third thing was, Antifa had gone to Tucker Carlson's house and broken the door down, was threatening his wife. And I said, I won't ever want to be violent and never physically start an altercation. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi says, the force is for defense, never attack. But I said, I've got an instant access safe in my bedroom with a battle rifle, a shotgun, and a handgun. And if Antifa attacks my house, is burning my house down, trying to shoot me, I'm going to go out and defend myself. So I said, never attack Antifa, but defend yourself. Well, they did never show the clip whenever, all the shows put it on.
This guy should not be allowed to monologue for this long. Like, this is kind of, like, inexcusable. Like, just going on and on and on and on and on and on and on about, like, Antifa and, like, how like, you were unfairly banned and how journalists were mean to you. Like, shut the fuck up. Man, these guys are such fucking pussies.
It's a national news story. They just said Jones called for killing leftists with battle rifles. A $1 million challenge. Where did I say kill leftists with battle rifles? Never happened. Where did I beat up an 8-year-old in Missouri? Never happened. So that's all they've got. And then we've now learned, this isn't about me, but it's very interesting. Very interesting. They introduced in court with my $1.5 billion judgment against me, defaulted by the judge, I'm allowed to defend myself, already guilty. They entered in court.
They're so bad. The victim complex.
9 years ago of stuff that was edited clips out of context of me just saying the internet says this, what's going on. That turns into.
I don't think I'm leveled up enough to, like, actually
doing all these things I never did.
do anything
And when
there,
they
so.
sued me and didn't get the evidence, they
I'm
defaulted
gonna have to level
me
up more, I
and then
guess.
said the new model. And they're now doing that with Fox News and the Dominion lawsuit. And if you don't like Fox News, the judge says you're not giving me the right evidence. I'm going to default you. So you don't get a trial. You're guilty now.
Okay, literally, this whole, like, the past, like, 5 minutes has basically been Alex Jones whining about how unfairly he's been treated by the media and by lawmakers and by journalists. Like, just shut the fuck up about the cry bullying. Like, this is really unproductive conversation to have. Like, the prompt was wasn't the prompt, like, I forgot even what the prompt was about at this point. Wasn't it like what should be allowed on social media?
A jury decides how guilty you are. That's the weaponization of the judiciary. So then, when Hillary lost and Trump was about to win, they had a PR firm. They've now bragged about it. I didn't know this live the cases. They hired a PR firm that does the UN PR. It's the second biggest PR firm in the U.S. to run all these national stories everywhere about Jones is attacking people. He's peeing on graves. He's going after people. I'm like, no, I'm not. No, I'm not. It's like Joe Rogan when they go, he said the N-word. He's like, stop saying it because they edited it all together. And I kind of did say some of that, but not most of this. And I didn't know what was going on. And then they defaulted me. Then they did that. Then they wanted $2 trillion. Oh, you only get $1.5 billion. I don't have $5 million. So I learned how the whole thing was not about me.
It's ridiculous.
It was about demonize free speech, demonize the populace. And when people don't stand up for Alex Jones, then all the dominoes fall. So I don't feel sorry for myself.
This isn't about me. It then proceeds to talk about how everything, like how unfairly you've been treated, how people were mean to you, and blah 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 blah. yeah, it's not about me, but man, I have been treated so unfairly about everything. Wow.
I feel like I'm caught up in a really historical point. I don't have the incredible
He's not that
organization
special.
and focus and purity of a Julian Assange, who I find no sin with, who I think did basically a perfect job. If he's
There it
free
is.
Julian Assange. He's a great guy.
Didn't Julian Assange, like, release a bunch of shit? Like, man, it has been a while since I've kept up with the news. On specific, like, stories. But, like, didn't he, like, release a bunch of, like, shit, like a bunch of, like, state secrets or something? Like, okay. Or was he the WikiLeaks guy? I'm pretty sure. Or was that Edward Snowden? I don't recall exactly. I don't know.
8-9 years in solitary confinement, almost dead. So anytime I feel
Oh,
sorry
that
for
can't be
myself, I
repaired,
made a lot
duh.
of mistakes. We go crazy on air and get drunk on air, and everything, and take mushrooms on air. And I'm like, God, I didn't say some crazy stuff. It was not done to be mean. I look back on all that. I just say, I'm lucky. This machine only did this to me. Didn't use CIA sex operatives. Didn't set me up, and didn't literally put me in a solitary confinement cell for 9 years. So
like I mean, like, I don't really know what to say. Like, these guys are like very, like, one of the common denominators with conservatives is that they're fucking petrified. And that constant fear is reinforced by some of the stories that they peruse online on a daily basis. And some of those stories, most of them rather, are those of, like, I guess, the deep state setting me up, trying to Michael Jackson me, which is what Kanye had said, and trying to get me addicted to opiates and trying to, like, do all, like, a lot of their personal insecurities and failings in life has been totally pawned off and blamed on things that, like, other people or other entities, such as the deep state.
I'm not a victim. Julian Assange is, and he's who we should be getting out of jail. And that's one of Trump's biggest faults, is he told Julian Assange in 2016, he said, Julian, if you've got the evidence of Hillary, I want you to release it now. And then he releases it, and they throw him under the prison. So,
oh, wait.
At the end of the day, fuck Donald Trump for that. You know what I mean?
Cool.
What I understand about the Twitter banning of you, Alex, is that you got banned for one reason, which was the stuff you were talking about. And then now Elon just doesn't want to let you on because he thinks that you were mean about the kids with the Sandy Hook crap.
No, I agree with Elon Musk. I should not be let back on Twitter.
Really? You think?
No, I'm dead. I'm dead
I mean,
serious.
at least he's
I don't like
honest.
that one guy can have arbitrary authority. Like, I just feel like I don't like the way he's.
Well, no.
No, it's not. Wait. It's not that he. It's not like Elon was like, oh, I feel like you were a little mean about the whole, like, Sandy Hook thing. It's like, it's deeper than that.
What you're saying is totally true, but let me explain the 3D chess. No, I'm being dead serious. Elon says, I will not arbitrarily ban people. I will follow the law and the rules. Then he says, Alex Jones attacks dead kids, and Jesus said, if you do that, you should tie a millstone around your neck and be thrown in the ocean. So he's being hypocritical on his statement of him not making personal decisions. What he said there was a lie. But let's explain. It's a battery. When they ran tens of thousands, and that's conservative, of articles, thousands of national newscasts about what they said I did to
I gotta
kids
sell
that I
some of
didn't
this
do.
shit.
People don't know who Anna Blands is. They think I killed him, okay? I mean, literally, you think that name, I won't even say the name, they think me. So they've charged up this giant battery against free speech that's Alex Jones. He's freeing all the captives. He's doing great things at Twitter, changed the whole paradigm. I have to only salute him. If I was Elon Musk, I wouldn't go as far as to actually be thrown in the ocean with a millstone around my neck, but that's a little too far. I shouldn't be killed. Please don't call people to kill me. But I understand that if he did that, they would have been able to shut down Twitter, overthrow what he did, and stop the revolution. So when they said, everybody kept going, free
What
him,
revolution?
free him, he goes, no, he's the sacrificial lamb. So it's almost like the Dark Knight. I get it. Because
So notice all the words he's using. To your average consumer or your average person, what he would be saying would be, like, complete incoherence. However, if you have, like Alex Jones has, perused page, like, 19 or 20 on fucking The Blaze or some random far-right website, the vernacular adopted by those on those websites becomes part of your own language. I mean, this is pretty obvious when you think about it, because it's just how, like, human beings are, but I mean, it does kind of like show how deep down the fucking well he's fallen.
All that demonization and that investment that I'm the devil, he goes, great, everybody else is free but him, we're going to crucify him. I'm not comparing myself to Christ, but I'm saying I get it. And so Elon Musk, never unban me. I love being the black sheep, and I get it. Free everybody else and just say, hey, I freed all them, but I kept that son of a bitch locked up. If everybody else gets free, we're going to win. And I think if he'd have done that, they'd have taken over Twitter. So Elon Musk made the right move.
Destiny, wait. Hold on, Ian. So Destiny, reinstate Alex or no?
Should he unban Alex or no?
Yes.
Well, the reason why I asked is I don't know what he was originally banned for. That's what I'm curious. I don't know why Elon Musk hasn't unbanned you. Well, I don't know. I have no fucking
listen.
idea
He thinks
how
it was
much of that is true or
for.
not.
He thinks it was for that shooting in Connecticut. But I'm telling you, these guys are smart news guys. Tell them, Luke, it was for the things I said.
Here's my question, because I know we have a lot of Elon fans up here. Do you think that Elon Musk is running Twitter to try to make money, or do you think he has a principled adherence to freedom of speech?
I think Elon Musk is really smart. I'm really impressed. I get more impressed every day. He knows money is a symbol of energy, like gas in your gas tank. You don't worship the gas tank, but you worship the sunrises and the forest and the blue skies and the suns.
What? Again, incoherence. Absolutely nothing being said here makes sense. This is a very roundabout way of answering the question, too.
Says you see when you're in your car or when you pick your kids up at school. So I worship that mobility, and so to him, he wants it to be successful so he can do SpaceX and all the other amazing things he's doing. And so it's both. It's not exclusive to one. You want to be successful with money so you have the freedom, but definitely he's hitting on all cylinders now where he said something everybody should agree with. Everybody knows that the majority of people have agreed now, and I think they're right, the circumcision is wrong. No, seriously.
What does that mean?
Your newborn son does not have a say whether part of his pecker is going to be cut off, okay? Now, look,
Wait, hold on. How did we get from is Elon running the company because he believes in free speech or because he wants to make money? And now we're on to little Tommy doesn't know, like, has no say in if his genitals get cut off. Like, what do we talk? How do we even get over here? Yeah, I mean, like, this is a fucking reach here. That was close.
I'm circumcised.
I hate these archers. I'm circumcised.
My son is 20 years old. And I remember the female doctor came to me and she said, do you really want to do this? And she said, we'll do it, but we don't agree with it. He should make the choice. And just out of tradition, I said, cut the end of his dick off. Now, that was wrong. That was wrong. But the point is, I'm being honest about what I did. In hindsight,
that is really surprising.
This is wrong.
So, yeah, a lot of conservatives are like, they're forcefully castrating all, like, little boys, and the common retort, the less convincing or the less, like, one that we shouldn't really focus on retort is like, okay, what's your opinion on circumcision? And most of them would just not answer the question. But at least now with Alex Jones, I guess he's starting to like he's one of the first conservatives I've seen who has actually addressed that and has admitted the inconsistency there.
We know in some of the crazier Islamic countries, they cut the clitoris off little girls. I think we agree that's wrong, right? Does the little girl, okay, but a 5-year-old or 10-year-old kid does not have the ability to make a decision where they want to be sterilized.
This is so dumb because first off, they're not being sterilized. That's the first thing. Second thing is that the medical age of consent for most states is I think it's like 12 years old. So they're allowed to still give consent to procedures, and they're also under the consultation of physicians, endocrinologists, therapists, etc., so forth. So it's not like it's an ill-informed decision or that it is a rushed decision. This is a decision that the child, first off, it's not being made at like 4 or whatever. Like, they're a little older than that. But additionally, it is a decision that they are legally and they're legally allowed to give an opinion on, or like, and also it's not like unilaterally decided from like the parents or something.
same thing. And so Elon Musk came out Friday and said, anybody that sterilizes or cuts the testicles or breast off a girl or boy before they're 17 goes to prison. When you're 17,
But he's not a
18,
lawmaker.
You want to have that? You want to be something else? It's just like a breast job. You want to be somebody else? More power to you. Okay? You want to have horns put on your head. But that's what Elon came out on that Friday, and I'm full Elon now because that is the transhumanist system, is to get us to accept that against children. And once we accept that against children, look, circumcision.
Dude, conservatives don't care about they don't care about circumcision that much. They also don't care about children, given the fact that they consistently are in favor of and defund welfare on a consistent basis. So they want like children to starve during lunchtime at school because they are against free lunches as well. So yeah, they care about children so much that they do all that shit.
This was wrong, but let's cut their whole thing off. Come on, guys.
What?
That's what I'm trying to say here is when Elon passed that third rail and did that, I'm fully behind what he's doing.
What do you think of the Missouri law, the new Missouri law that says even adults have to wait 18 months? Is it 3 years? 3 years for medical, that adults have to wait for medical intervention.
No, I don't think adults should have to. I'm against that law.
You're against that law?
No, I mean, listen, I don't
There's
want.
people who went through transition and then came out the other side who said, as adults, who said this would have really saved me and I would not be missing my dick right now.
No, I understand they got brainwashed and they got put into that, and so they want a waiting period. But it becomes the other danger if, as an adult, you're 18. Your family should protect. I mean, I see.
He's
both
really not
sides.
giving a
Like
response
a waiting
here.
period for adult women who determine they don't want to have children and they want to have hysterectomies. Because it's very difficult for adult women to get a hysterectomy voluntarily.
No, I
That
think
is
women-
true.
Listen, I don't like assisted suicide. I don't like suicide.
Dude, what are we talking? Wait, hold on. Am I actually, like, really fucking stupid? Like, what are they... How did that get shoehorned into this conversation?
But I agree with your right to kill yourself. I don't.
What?
I don't want the government.
The government's help? Because
What I'm saying is, I don't want the government to pay for it. I don't want the government to push it. I don't want the government involved in it. But
It's
if you want to go back in
taxpayers who
your
are
back of your
paying
house
for
and
it.
blow your head off, that's your business. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing. If a woman or maybe
What a lack of humanity demonstrated by Alex Jones. You don't care if somebody takes a shotgun to their head and blows their brains out? What the fuck is wrong with you, dude?
a woman has her whole family has breast cancer, she says, I don't want to die of cancer. No, I think as adults, we should be able to do anything we want to ourselves as long as the state doesn't pay for it, meaning I pay for it. At the end of the day, I'm a libertarian.
Meaning I pay for it.
personal issues, but I think you really have to come of age. I think that's 17 or 18. You can't join the military. You can't buy guns. You can't buy liquor because everybody knows we do dumb shit when we're kids. We need people to protect us. Once you're an adult, good decisions, bad decisions, I think you should be able to make them.
I've got a theory about how to.
Well, no. Did he maybe I missed it, but did he qualify, like, as long as you're not hurting others into his, like, thing? Because, like, that's kind of important. You shouldn't be allowed to do anything. Like, yeah, if you're hurting other people or, like, committing murder or something, then yeah, that's bad. I don't know if he qualified. It was kind of hard to follow their train of thought.
We deal with this Alex Jones ban on Twitter. So what would happen is, I like your 3D chess analogy. If Elon were to unban
Yeah, I don't
you,
need all
he would
these.
basically absorb all the hatred that people have on you right now into him. And that would be too much for him and it could destroy the platform. But if the
What?
community provided enough pressure and there were enough people that forced him to do it, and it gave him essentially no choice because there was such a loud noise, the hatred would absolve into the community and it would be diffused among many, many, many people.
Is he just making this up, or does he have, like...
Well, I'm kind of curious for you guys, because I asked earlier, do you think that Elon is principally concerned with freedom of speech or making money? And we kind of got an answer of both, but I think at some point you have to choose between one or the other. And recently you had Elon trying to shut down, or at least put a warning to, Substack links. I believe Taibbi and I think other journalists completely left Twitter, like completely over it, and now they exclusively post on.
Yeah, not only that, didn't they release some restrictions regarding Mastodon links as well, not just Substack?
Substack. So how do you feel about Elon's decision to, I guess, try to inhibit people from visiting competitor websites?
Is that a question for me?
Or anybody, yeah.
Boy, I've been hogging the time here. I mean, I'll just say briefly, Substack was basically empowered by Twitter. I love Substack. And I think that what Elon is doing is not about a free speech issue, but that they are a Twitter competitor, and that Twitter is barely basically hanging on this revolution. So
What does that mean?
he's doing something to save the platform. That doesn't mean I agree
So it's a wait, hold on.
with it. I don't think it's being done as an anti-free speech movement. It's being done kind of like Yahoo was blocking YouTube when it first launched, 16, 17, 18 years
I mean, this
ago.
is anti-freedom of speech to protect
Well,
your
but
pockets.
he also said that he wasn't actually blocking. If you looked at the links, there was a warning.
The
but
same
they
thing with the
weren't-
New York Post story for Hunter
they
Biden
weren't-
initially too, though, right? There was
no,
a
that
warning
was
when you clicked off.
that was pulled.
No.
Well, I think it was brought back. It
But
was
the
brought
thing
back
with
with a warning,
the
though,
thing with
too,
the
though.
I'm not defending the warning labels on the Substack links,
Hey,
but I am
Erica.
saying that it was a warning label. And in terms of if Musk is defending free speech on the platform or trying to make money, he won't be able to defend free speech if the platform doesn't make any money.
So now violations of freedom of speech are okay as long as it protects the pocket of the owner so that he continue to run the
No,
company.
no, 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 no,
say
no,
that
no, no,
even
no.
remotely.
I want to be
I
clear.
did not
I want to
say
be clear.
that.
That's a good point.
I just
argument you have.
clarified what the thing was that happened, and then said.
Give me 1 second. Okay, let's continue.
That I think he's defending free speech and trying to make money so he can continue to
Sure.
defend free
What if he
speech.
says that I think we should?
But
ban
also,
red-
what Substack did was, weren't they like appropriating a bunch of the code and
Yes.
and
They
cloning?
created a Twitter clone.
Yeah, they were cloning the community notes thing.
Hey, Dustin, is Elon in the room with us now? He's not. We're not here to make
What does that have to do with what did he think he was getting a gotcha from?
excuses for Elon. I think the Substack thing has two
Wait, we're
different
not allowed
sides
to
to
talk
it.
about the billionaire owner of one of the largest social media
No, we
platforms. in the
of course are, but you're directing questions like we're his spokespersons. We're not.
Well, you were all so eager to defend him a little bit ago, so I was just curious. If
No,
you-
no,
no,
I
think that's
I have meant,
disingenuous.
listen, I agree with you. I have meant to address this because it just broke like 4 or 5 days ago. I'm trying to analyze it. I am not his apologist. In fact, the guys banned me and said that I need to be murdered. But I got his PR.
That doesn't
because he's
mean
trying to
that-
counter what they were trying to use me against him. What I'm saying is, that's a corporate decision and it is censorship against a competitor that's using their technology. I was simply saying I think that's wrong. There's a lot of great Substack people and he should stop it, and I believe he's created the Streisand effect. But the CIA and the Justice Department and these combines
Oh my
with
God.
the deep state working with all of big tech to censor everybody, that's the big threat, and Elon has broken away and is doing his own thing. So I don't agree with him, but he gets a little bit, not even of a grace period, but just a little bit of a time to see what he's going to do because he's broken with that. That's what I'm saying. Because I think he shouldn't have done that to Substack. I
One may say that he is in a fallen state.
think they jumped the gun. I think that it's an issue. They're threatened by Substack. And, quite frankly, I hope Substack becomes bigger than Twitter. I hope there's 10 Twitters. That's all I'm saying.
So what we learned
What does
when
that mean?
Twitter open sourced their algorithm from the Substack stuff was that it actually isn't the production live algorithm because there was no Substack reference in GitHub. So they have some sort of link blacklist somewhere, which we don't know about. And they did say that we haven't seen all of the algorithm yet. And what we also
Whoa.
learned from the algorithm is that all links are punished on Twitter. And actually, Facebook does this too. They all do it. They basically demote links because it pushes people off to other websites, which is stupid. And he shouldn't be intimidated by that. I mean, we saw just a few weeks after the acquisition was over
Okay, that's
that
good.
Twitter rolled out a policy which they rescinded, which was to block Facebook and Instagram and even
every competing social media.
Nostr, which is the decentralized protocol that we're using.
Yeah, that's it. So they've all done this to each other before.
Yeah, YouTube does this routinely. Like you can't when you outlink in the description on your YouTube channel, they demote your video in the algorithms.
So I'm not gonna lie, I really don't care if a company is like de-promoting some other company. Like I don't really care that much. It's if demoting is one thing, but like banning it altogether is kind of dumb. Not saying that's what Twitter exactly did. I don't really follow it too much to care, but yeah.
So why are we discussing and talking about Twitter when all these other social media platforms are also engaged in the same
because we were
platform as
herald-
well?
because we were
And I think
heralding
if we're
Elon.
talking about Twitter, let's talk about
Yeah.
YouTube doing it as well.
Why should we talk about Twitter, in spite of the fact that they were literally just having a discussion about Elon Musk?
Because I think they deserve criticism
And
as
again,
well.
it's not about not
YouTube is-
criticizing Elon. It's not about not criticizing Elon, but what Luke just said is true. We're all focused on Twitter because they release the files. The other big tech does it even worse and more sophisticated. And I think that's what Luke's saying, but I think your question's reasonable.
Facebook ran psychological studies seeing how they could manipulate people's emotions through the algorithm, trying to make them outraged, trying to make them sad, trying to make them feel happy. They were able to do psychological studies. The things that Facebook does, they know when you're about to take a shit, all right? These motherfuckers are up your fucking ass with so much private metadata that we can't even imagine, we can't even fathom. And I think when we criticize big tech social media, yes, let's criticize Twitter. Twitter could do better, but I think there's a bigger elephant in the room, and that's all the collusion and all the actions that big tech has been acting on, particularly from one side of the aisle, and
That's
that
right.
side is the
It's the big
establishment.
globalist governmental combines controlling all.
See, now they're turning the conversation back into the broader conspiracy theory because all these guys are conspiracy brained. Everything is a grand conspiracy to like just control the population, blah blah blah. Like, it somehow always comes back to that, huh?
all of big tech, and then Twitter breaks away, and we go, Elon, you're exposing the censorship, but then you're protecting your platform, which I'm not even agreeing with that. I'm just saying that's a different animal what he's doing.
Just to have like a basic tech conversation, are we like opposed to tailored algorithms? Is this a bad thing, do we think, or?
Absolutely not. Obviously, individuals get to choose. I think at the end of the day, individuals should be able to choose, but private companies get to choose whatever algorithms they want. But when they're politically motivated, when they create echo chambers, when they create conversations
When
that
they
are
block
dominated,
other algorithms.
But that's kind of like how that works, though. Right? Like, echo chambers are a product of human like decision making, right? Because like you decide to be in the echo chamber, you decide to contribute to that echo chamber. Like, it's I don't know. There's some agency being removed from the user, I think, from these guys at least.
So I think it should all be open and free.
Yeah, when they radicalize individuals that only hear their voice and not opposing viewpoints, and there's no actual logical debate, and you only hear one side talking shit about the other side and becoming more emotional and more enraged.
Sure. So
I think there deserves to be a discussion about our ability to what we're curated and what we want to see, because at the end of the day, what we subscribe is what we should see.
And
But
by
that's
the way,
not
what
what's
Luke
happening.
just said is the answer to everything. Go back to YouTube and Google and all of it. It's a parent company 20 years ago. They on purpose put us in groups and then put the most radical in there to push those groups to divide us and make us a new country. And I was part of that. I didn't know I was being used, but they were pushing me because they could take out of context a few things they liked that were radical or crazy. But I didn't do it on purpose. So exactly what Luke just said. You can't ban algorithms, you can't ban them, and we should be aware of it. But absolutely, they set up the algorithm that made the left wing so crazy, that made the right wing so crazy, that turned this country into what we are.
What made me so
Also,
crazy?
It's the algorithm on TikTok and Tumblr and all of these other things that contribute to the social contagion of trans among kids and
That's not subtle at all.
teens. And I think that's a problem.
Yeah, so, okay,
Like
so...
San Francisco, 40% of the kids are trans or whatever?
No, I don't think that's true.
I think it's something like that.
Well, 40% of Republican discourse might be about trans people, but I don't think 40% of kids are trans.
No, there are school districts where 40% of the kids say they are not.
There was a YouGov poll where Republicans think that 40% of the population is trans. I think that's what we're thinking of right now.
No,
That is
there
an
are
actual
some
poll by
school.
YouGov.
I'll look it up. There are some school districts where 40% of the kids, it's not trans. They think they're of the 100, 200, whatever it is things.
I mean, there was also
What?
a story that spread like wildfire that kids were getting kitty litter boxes in their school that came from like a Joe Rogan episode that's
That was
completely
a
fake as well.
fake story.
Completely fake.
But why has there been a 4,000% increase in girls identifying as trans?
Yeah, there's no doubt this is. Are you denying that if you turn mainstream television on, you're just hammered? Like everybody hates a Coca-Cola ad or a Chevy ad or whatever you're being hammered with. You look at any mainstream culture, it's trans.
1 second, sorry. Let me just rewind a little bit.
That 40% of the population is trans. I think that's what we're thinking of right now.
No,
That is
there
an
are
actual
some
poll by
school.
you.
I'll look it up. There are some school districts where 40% of the kids, it's not trans. They think they're of the 100, 200, whatever it is, things.
So, okay. The claim being made here is that 40% of children believe that there's some kind of xenogender thing. This is demonstrably untrue. I would need to see the study or whatever number he pulled from to like really like look into like the validity and like if it's actually true. But like I can tell you right now, it's not. A lot of conservatives lie about a lot of things. I'm under no obligation here to trust the sources that Alex fucking Jones is using to substantiate the fact that 40-something% of like children think there's some xenogender or whatever. This is an outlandish claim to make. Of the proportion of trans people in the United States, very few are even xenogender, and that isn't even that's including like adults as well. So this is a ludicrous statement to make.
I mean, there was also the story that spread like wildfire that kids were getting kitty litter boxes in their school that came from like a Joe Rogan episode that's completely fake as well.
Fake story.
Completely fake.
But why has there been a 4,000% increase in girls identifying as trans?
Wait, girls identifying as trans? So, wait, hold on. That's a very specific type of trans. So, okay, assuming she means like trans like woman. One reason for that could be the prominence of social media and the ubiquity of representation of trans people and the acceptance of LGBTQ plus rights in the past 10, 15 years. So, especially with the prominence of technology, this is not this is really not like a difficult thing to understand. Like, ideologies and being exposed to different belief systems or different people has caught wildfire in the age of the internet. It's very easy to understand that concept. And once more, it's also easy to understand as a consequence of the ubiquity of the internet and social media that people are being more reflective upon their own identities now more than ever. This is in part attributed to the communities that some of these kids are participating in on social media, as well as the representation of trans people in media. So this is, like, if you take like 2 seconds to even think about this, it like becomes a little obvious, like, why that's the case.
Yeah,
also, it's worth noting that trans people have always existed and have unfortunately been pushed into the closet for a long time, until like very recently, basically. So like that, like they were always there, I guess. It's just like the social acceptance of trans people has not really been prominent until like recently.
There's no doubt this is. Are you denying that if you turn mainstream television on, you're just hammered? Like everybody hates a Coca-Cola ad or a Chevy ad or whatever you're being hammered with. You look at any mainstream culture, it's trans.
And the reason for that is because conservatives will nonstop talk about it. Guys, do you remember the fucking New York Post, or like that post? I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it. Let me see if I can really quick. Whoops. It could be in my likes. But, like, the New York Post made, like, over 30 stories about Dylan Mulvaney and Budweiser. I don't know if I'll be able to find it, unfortunately. Doesn't look like I will. That's okay. But yeah, it's the main reason why we keep hearing about trans people in media is because conservatives will non-stop talk about it. Yeah, I don't know if I'll be able to find it. That's okay, though. But you're just going to trust me. I actually showed it on stream 2 streams ago. But yeah. We keep hearing about trans people because conservatives keep talking about them. And because they're very afraid, they go to sleep at night, like, petrified over the fact that a child is, like, taking puberty blockers. Like, yeah. They're very afraid of trans people.
I mean, are we denying that?
I don't even know what we're talking about right now. Are we moving to trans issues now? I thought we were talking about social media and how to like moderate social media. Now we're talking about algorithms. I think there's a lot of interesting. Well, no, I think this is important, okay? Because I noticed that when these panels happen, you guys never actually say anything. We move from crazy topic to crazy topic to crazy topic. I think there's a really fascinating and interesting discussion that can happen about algorithms. So, for instance, you guys earlier were being critical that algorithms radicalize people. Well, is it the job of a social media platform to put content in front of you that you might not want to watch? If somebody watches a video by the Young Turks, are you saying that the next video that should be recommended should be like a Tucker Carlson video? Like, you guys throw a lot of criticisms out about these companies.
No,
you guys you throw a lot of criticisms out about these companies, but then at the end of the day, you're not really like saying anything. And we just move from like sensationalist topic to sensationalist topic, and now we're talking about 40% of the population is trans.
But this is not that hard to understand. So don't make it sound like we're talking crazy here. This is pretty simple.
I'm not crazy. You're crazy.
Have an easier access to certain types of content because that content aligns with the political philosophies of the.
It is not a political philosophy for trans people to exist. That is just like a thing that it's just as natural as like heterosexuals existing or like cisgender people existing. It's what you do with their existence that could make it political. So representing a trans person in like a Budweiser commercial is not like pushing a political philosophy. Like those aren't like the same thing. They're just there. They're in the ad campaign. They're in media. Like I don't understand. Like this is the thing. Like this is like their mindset really. Like they think everything. Like they think the existence of like a certain group of people is inherently political, when that's not the case. It's no more political than, you know, whatever, the hegemonic demographic.
Executive team of that platform, that's a problem. That is what I'm trying to say. So I do not have a fundamental issue with algorithms. For example, I think that as long as the consumer can choose to turn on or off those algorithms, that's okay. The problem is when I have recommended content based on political philosophy that I did not choose because the things that I agree with.
Wait, does he know how algorithms work? You get recommended certain videos based upon your watch history, in part, as well as some of the information that is sold between social media platforms to advertisers. So you're not getting forced down like progressive whatever. Like it partially depended upon like the shit you're consuming yourself, like your watch history.
With are being purposely suppressed. That's what I have a problem
I understand what you're saying, but the issue is that for a long time, I don't even know if Twitter does it, they gave consumers an option. Do you want the tailored feed or do you want the chronological one? I believe when Elon bought Twitter, he brought back the chronological one. Nobody wants that. Consumers don't want the ability to look. That's great if there's a few people in the
How do you
audience.
know that? What's the data proving that?
What data do you have?
Out, right? What? So how do we know that's true? Because I just want to ask you if you could clarify. How do we know people don't want that? Because I personally use it. I like it, and I haven't seen any data released highlighting that argument.
I mean, the data is that every company is moving in this direction because it's getting
Okay,
people
we
to
can talk
engage
about
at
that
a
one
higher
thing.
level. Yes.
You can talk
Not
about
true.
algorithms all day, but then there was the pre-programmed lie with government corporate disinformation on every channel the last 3 years. What I don't want.
Notice how the framing just switched there. So we went from talking about the efficacy of algorithm or like using tailored advertising to now like talking about like how they're manufacturing consent or like they're like lying, like known lying about other shit, like like things that are like only tangentially related. And that's like a very clever ploy by like propagandists, I've noticed.
Algorithms are one thing, but I don't want a force-fed corporate big lie put in all the tops of the feeds. That's the algorithm I don't want. It's not even an algorithm. It's we're going to force this down your throat.
I'm going to answer your questions.
Force what down your throat, Alex Jones? Is it you realize that like the outrage over trans people has been predominantly from conservative spaces, right?
Steven. I think it's a good one. I think that private companies, if they spin up a social network, have the right to show you whatever algorithm they want. If they want to show you dog dicks all day, even when you search for women, even when you search for cartoons, they show you dog dicks. It's their company,
I don't know
they
about
do whatever
that.
they want. But when a company gets to the size of acting in the commons, it takes
Also, that's a really weirdly specific
and then
example to
code.
use.
At that point, I think they can still show you whatever they want, but that code needs to be free so I can spin up my own version of the site. And if people hate their algorithm, they're going to start using my awesome technology that's now publicly available, and then it'll become
I agree. By the way, I love how your coat matches his hair.
Thank you so much. It'll become a marketplace of terms of service and a marketplace of algorithms instead of marketplace of who owns the code.
Marketplace of
You know, the
ideas.
sketchy thing that platforms do, specifically big tech, is they change the defaults. So people are put into the algorithms when, and what that does, which hurts create.
Just to be a little clear here, people are not put into algorithm. Like, that's not how that works.
Is that it takes away people's organic reach. So when they make the
What does that
algorithms default,
mean?
you know, that's when creator reach goes down drastically. You spend 10 years
Organic
on Facebook
reach?
to get 100,000 followers, and then suddenly you're only getting 3% reach because they decided to change the default.
And then the corporate media has an unfair advantage in that situation, which is absolutely unfair to independent media creators, which needs to be called out. It's all because of their algorithm. And when it comes to the algorithm, if it was free-flowing,
You know what? I forgot to save Kane. That's my bad.
I can make that understanding that, hey, you know, maybe we could have a radicalization discussion then. But when it's curated, when it's manipulated, when we know that they could even control our emotions to the point of fine-tuning.
Nobody is controlling your emotions. Again, this is like placating to the conspiracy brain shit. Like, they are sending like mega waves through like 5G bullshit to like mind control you into like wanting to transit. Like, these guys are completely incoherent and ignorant of what like actually is happening with social media platforms and how it's being exploited.
This, they could also run many kind of different operations, many different psyops, and they can
Well,
mess with you in so many
listen,
different ways.
I'm not a tech guy, but that's why every few days I delete my history just so I get the new stuff. Like, I'm not a tech guy. Isn't that what you do? You just delete your history?
I'm sure that's why you delete your history, yeah.
And then you get the new
It's a
stuff?
little bit more sophisticated than that, but
What about the guy?
Well, when I delete the history, I suddenly get new feeds.
I do that on YouPorn.
You guys give it up for our panel and our special surprise.
Boy, was that it?
Alex Jones. That's amazing. I have to jump in here because we have so many people excited to talk to you guys and ask questions. We have like at least 12 people, maybe a baker's dozen of people in line. So you guys be very concise. No life stories. Just get to your questions so we can try and get everybody and speak closer to the microphone than you think you have to.
You got it. Okay. So going back to the beginning of the conversation, since it's been proven that foreign nations like Russia use Twitter and other social media to push disinformation, use bots, stuff like that, is the U.S. government not allowed to even like request like, hey, we found these things that we think might be bots? Is that going too far, or should they just allow all of that to happen and potentially undermine democracy?
There was a situation where a certain a bunch of bots were identified by a third party, and it turned out that those bots were mostly just American citizens. So I think there's a concern in that identification process that it has to actually be accurate, and you can't just base it on somebody's biases. But I'd love to hear what other people think about that.
You're asking if it's ethical for the government to go in and ban what they consider bots on a social network? Is that the question?
Specifically, like foreign interference.
Again, the government make recommendations to social media platforms. So, for instance, in the Twitter files, the government made huge recommendations to Twitter where they said, we think that these accounts are foreign disinformation. I think because they said they followed like 2 or more Chinese diplomats, but they had no tweets. And then Twitter overviewed a lot of these accounts. They said, we don't agree, and they didn't ban them. That would be an example of like a request that the government might make, or making something aware of a tech company, to a tech company.
Maybe I think the word foreign might be a little vague. You know, it might.
Foreign as in not American, not of this.
Yeah, because if I'm in Ohio but I'm chatting with someone in the UK, am I all of a sudden a foreign compliant? You know, so.
No. What? God, these guys are so fucking dumb. Holy shit.
Oh, I really, I don't know. I don't like the government. I don't like some central authority shutting down what they don't like and using.
It's not that they don't like it. It's that it is abridging law. It is violating law. election interference is against the law?
Man, this is a fucking challenging environment. I can't answer this on my own.
Do you know what's interesting is I had brought this to talk about because I wanted to bring Tolstoy to talk about censorship, and Tolstoy talks about how when he was writing this book, What is Art? Because I'm a dork. Anyway, when he was writing this book, the publisher came to him and said, "Can we just change this a little bit? And can we just change that a little bit?" And then it went to the government censorship office and all of this, and he says that eventually a book appeared under his name containing thoughts attributed to him which are not mine. And I think that that's something that we have to be concerned about when we have an environment of censorship and when we have a culture that encourages self-censorship. Because as soon as you have any kind of censorship higher up, it trickles down and people start censoring themselves. And self-censorship is censorship, and we should look out for that and not let it happen.
Agreed. Let's go to the next one.
We're going to jump in for the next
keep
question.
going.
I have a quote-unquote conservative family member in the federal judiciary to whom I have posed the argument of publisher versus platform. They have argued that forcing the speech on these corporations is the limitation of the corporation's speech. How do we convince the neocon conservatives that the corporations are not working in the best interests of the population and that monopolies held by these corporations are infringing on the personal liberties, not allowing competition, especially when it is these people who are tasked with protecting those liberties? Thank you.
Well, thank you. That's a great question. The neocons want total power. They follow Professor Strauss. So they basically love Hitler. So they know they're running over us. They're bad people. They want control. And so, yeah, we keep thinking like, oh, the system wants to work with us. They want to be nice. They're trying to be liberal. No. The globalists are fascists that hide behind a liberal veil, folks. And they want total control.
So notice how he's not actually answering the question. He's more so just reverting back to his dialogue tree. Like Alex, man, it really is kind of an easy job being a propagandist, because all you have to do is memorize some talking points and then the rest is pretty easy. The most critical thinking they employ is just how do I get to this dialogue tree? It's there's no actual critical thinking taking place here.
Free speech is the answer to them.
One way you can look at it is corporate free speech is not about who they let say what, because they can control that legally. It's about the code they use. Their speech is their code. For these networks, social networks that we're talking about, that's the way they're communicating with us. So that should be free. And if that's free, then I think the problem solves itself.
It doesn't? Wait, what problem?
Exactly. Freedom is the answer. It will dispel, it will discredit. The billions of people online will see the lie. We will deal with it. We don't need some overlord doing it. That always goes wrong.
I'm going to try to touch on three things real quick. Sorry, I had a couple drinks. So with the Hunter Biden laptop situation, I am far less concerned about the dick pics and more concerned about the 10% for the big guy. And then Tony Bobulinski coming out and saying that Joe Biden is the big guy. But more concerning for that is the fact that I don't think that same level of censorship would have been applied if it had been Donald Trump's kid doing the same things.
Yep.
When it comes to algorithms, I'm very wary of algorithms, but I think the best way to go forward is sort of an informed consent model. If I'm going to be subject to an algorithm, I think I should at least know that I'm being fed a certain feed. Whether I'm being shown more right-wing content because I'm watching right-wing stuff, or if I'm being shown more left-wing content. Either way, I think
Isn't that already kind of the case? It's based... Again, I said this before, it's partially based on your watch history, right? It's not it's a total surprise what information you get, I guess available on your feed.
Companies should be able to do what they want. I was wondering what you guys felt about that as far as trying to balance.
You think they should be transparent in telling you what it is that the algorithm is that it's feeding you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. What do you think, Ian?
Yeah.
Or Michael, go ahead.
I was thinking about TV commercials, and if they had to say every 3 hours we're going to show you a gummy bear commercial, They don't have to tell us that. They just feed us this subliminal thing at the impulses that they want. No one's ever raised a
There was a rule, though. There used to be this rule on network television that you had to give equal time to both political candidates.
The fairness doctrine.
Yeah, we used to have that.
Well, here's the deal, folks. We can sit here and debate all this, and I think it's kind of rearranging deck chairs in the Titanic. I already knew this because when Obama left office, and he was just a puppet of the deep state, they put $2 billion into the Countering Foreign Disinformation and Propaganda Act, and then suddenly, months later, they're having congressional hearings in the Defense Department in the House Armed Services Committee saying, Alex Jones is a Russian agent. We're battling him right now with the CIA. And I'm like watching C-SPAN going, wow, I know I was a Russian agent. Plus, less the CIA's after me. So they've done all this, and now they've got all these dashboards and think tanks and fact checkers and groups that are attacking and censoring and doing this.
I gotta
That
save
needs to
Kane, I
stop. Then we can debate the algorithms and free speech all day long. We have like Darth Vader literally bombing the living snot out of us. And so
What is he
they
talking
know
about?
Nuts and bolts of it. The point is, you shouldn't have corporations with big government and think tanks and universities censoring people and then calling it liberal. And again, I love real liberals that love freedom and happiness and all that. These are not liberals. These are the military-industrial complex that Eisenhower warned us of. These are the most cold-blooded corporations in the world that wrap themselves in Black Lives Matter. It's all crap.
I kind of want to hear
So,
what Seifert had to
he just
say.
went on a tangent for no
Explode
reason.
some knowledge on it.
Well, I don't know about that, but I will say that to the gentleman's point who asked that question, it's why I like to harp on that New York Post story so much. I think it was you, right? Yeah, thank you for the question. And the comment on the New York Post story. It's a huge deal, and if you're just trying to write it off by saying it was just about Hunter Biden's dick pics, it's completely disingenuous. The reality is, if a government can get in bed with a corporate entity to purposely thwart the likelihood of their opposing candidate winning the election, that's a very serious problem. And so it's so much more about the business dealings. And then to elaborate on the point even further.
So basing on what he just said, like the words he used, it feels like he's against the concept of like political ads, because that is trying to thwart your, I guess, like hinder the likelihood that your opponent will win. I don't know.
Like the big issue here too is that these corporate entities have become hijacked by lobbyists and by their dealings with a government that'll give special favors if they align with them politically. Like we got ours started with our company.
Give me some examples.
Yeah, I would be happy to. I'd be really happy to. I was about to. Thank you.
Did you watch the congressional hearings last month?
Yeah,
I want to know for Twitter, what were the special favors given to Twitter? For the Hunter Biden story, what are the special favors given to Twitter?
What do you mean special?
They paid them like $6 million bucks.
You just said that there are special favors given to corporations for interacting or cooperating.
Yeah, I was about to give you an example.
Okay, let's hear it.
During COVID, the businesses that were willing to puppet the messages of the regime were deemed essential, even though they had the same attributes and products and services offered as non-essential businesses, because they might have disagreed with the regime's political views.
And they got major corporate funding.
That is a perfect example of what happens when
Wait,
the
what does that
government...
have to do with Twitter?
The question wasn't about Twitter.
Advertising,
the question
Bill
moved
Gates.
into corporate entities in general,
Okay, so it's
getting
just more
involved in
random
political.
shit over
But there
random
was
shit.
also,
random shit.
wasn't there in the Twitter files?
You're not
wasn't
arguing
there
the
a-
point. You're
Yeah,
just
she said
saying it's
something.
random shit when you can't
The
defend it.
reason why it's random shit is because all you guys are doing are bringing up random fucking conspiracies.
But
No,
in the-
man.
but
every
in the-
every
Bill
time you have
Gates
the opportunity
spent
to
like
talk,
$5 billion
rather
during
than
that.
staying on one topic and talking about one thing and focusing on an actual conversation, it's
This
like,
is like-
here's the deep state,
This is like
here's
the-
essential businesses, and here's trans
You
kids.
said
and that's like
give
the
us-
whole fucking panel.
You
Like, what are we
said
talking
give
about
us
here?
one
Holy
example,
shit.
Hey,
and he just kicked your ass with examples.
And just
is
transparently,
like,
none of what I just said was conspiratorial. It was all very out in the open. Do you all remember certain businesses being called essential and others being non-essential?
That was like churches.
Pfizer spent $10 billion on advertising. That's what paid for
All
it.
right, next
Remember
question,
how-
next question, next question.
Man, we are really, we are hopscotching around with all the fucking conspiracies. Like, it's actually pretty crazy. Anti-vax, yeah.
Do you guys remember how casinos and liquor stores were essential and churches and schools were not? You guys remember that?
What point are they making, though?
trust anyone to do it.
They're just saying, do you remember this thing that happened?
Truth Social, whatever. If open protocols like for news and social media, like Nostr or Blue Sky succeed, how might this conversation look different? What are we going to be talking about in 5 years when none of these platforms can actually intermediate news and social media?
We're going to be talking about when code says no, disallow all dogs, but what the code is actually doing is transposing some other value for the word dog. And so when you read the code, you're going to see that you're going to think it's doing something about dogs that it's not. So you're going to need to know the language.
Is that even
of
true?
The sub-language of the language.
Yeah, I think.
I honestly, like, I don't even know, like, this is way beyond my pay grade. Like, maybe I've been living in a fallen state this whole time. Maybe I'm the true, like, sheep. I don't know. I'm not down this rabbit hole as far as some other people apparently.
I think that you're exactly right, because the other thing too is when you censor people, right, and you say these kinds of ideas can't be talked about, what people are going to do is they're going to continue to talk about the ideas but using different words and different language, and then you're going to have to censor that. Like, I remember very distinctly when my son was in kindergarten, I think it was, and the teacher said that you're not allowed to call anybody stupid, and so all the kids were like, okay.
Wait, yeah, that's a good thing? Wait, and first off, that's in school, not like social media.
Okay, we won't call anybody stupid, and they started calling each other silly instead, and then the teacher tried to make them not say the word silly, and they just kept coming up with other words so that they could call each other fucking stupid, you know?
That's what's great about humans is we're not.
Wait, these are first off, these are children we're talking about here. And also, what's this? I don't think that this translates towards the non-utility of having certain rules about using name calling on social media platforms.
Gonna be suppressed. Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I would want to call people fucking retarded online. I want to call them the N-word. Yeah, boy, woo!
All right, next.
I guess this is my question. What do you consider the ethical obligations of private companies like Meta for free speech and facilitating
probably just
public
sell this.
discourse? I mean, I know initially people were talking about, oh, easy, just ban child porn, no problem, that's all we need to do, and then, Meta is terrible, but I guess
It's
I'm
not
just kind of
the only
curious,
thing.
like, what in your minds would you consider also like
But that's not what I said. I said it was the great free internet we had 5-6 years ago. You ban hack material or people being doxxed. You ban child and calls for violence or like open scams and criminal activity. Anything illegal is banned.
Also, you need to learn when to put down the sword. You fight as a corporation metaphorically to gain market traction, and then once you get it, you need to let it go. You need to set it down and let the market take it.
There was actually this really interesting thing that happened recently where, so there was this Trans Day of Violence that was being advocated for on Twitter, and then anybody who reported on the fact that the Trans Day of Violence was being advocated for was banned. Do you remember that? And so, or was it violence or vengeance? I think it was vengeance, not violence. Apologies.
No, vengeance, yeah.
But yeah, I remember Andy No got locked out of Twitter. Marjorie Taylor Greene got locked out of Twitter. ThePostMillennial.com. You should check us out. ThePostMillennial.com/subscribe. You should come check us out. Anyway.
But you're right. They didn't ban the people calling for violence.
They
banned
banned the
people
journalists reporting on it and the congresswoman reporting on it. What about that? That's a tough one, right? Because, and what you had what's her name, the new head of Twitter Trust and Safety, talking about how anyone who said Trans Day of Vengeance would be banned, even the reporting on it. And I thought that was disingenuous.
Well, I think real quick, I don't think that the issue wasn't that they were trying to ban the reporters. I think the issue is that it was exploding on Twitter, and they were just trying to get rid of like that type of speech on Twitter as quickly as they could.
Yeah,
so they ended up just banning everybody that was like
5,000 accounts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think it was an intentional, like, if you're talking about it's going to ban you, they were just trying to get it off the platform.
So, but that's a situation where it would have been like AI doing that. That wasn't people doing it.
Was, yes,
so in that case, it would have been better to have people monitoring that system.
Well, then it's...
Well, there's, again, I said this at the top of this, like, whole panel over, but, again, like, it's really difficult to, like, monitor every single, like, user using the words Trans Day of Vengeance or whatever it was. So, like, there are some circumstances where using machine learning can be useful more so than a human sifting through each individual tweet.
it's a question of how many people do you want to hire. That's the issue, is that it's really expensive to hire a lot of people to do content moderation.
I know, but still.
Another shout out to the
Necessary.
Minds jury system on this one, because I think that might be the future of moderation online.
All right, I'm getting prompted
Do it up.
to jump in here, so I'm going to do it. My name is Dave. I'm a crypto anarchist. Destiny, you're not going to like the premise of this question, so you can sit it out. I love some
boy.
substantive answers. But,
Don't
It's an anarchist, so we know it's going to be a cringe fucking take or question.
censor Destiny. Don't
I'm
censor
just
Destiny.
saying, you can sit it out. Take a breath, drink some water. So obviously, to the rest of us, government censorship is getting more and more severe. They're making laws like the new Restrict Act, or they're just coercing the hell out of these platforms, dragging all the CEOs up to Capitol Hill and grilling them until they agree. Okay, we'll go along with the Atlantic Council. Don't shut us down.
Wow,
a
he's
lot of people think that this is just
priming the
getting
fuck
worse.
out of this.
And no matter who we left, right, or center, the agenda
He's still priming
got worse
the
under
question.
Obama, got worse under Trump. It doesn't seem to matter who's in that seat. So as content creators and as people who have built free speech platforms, moderation algorithms and banning are one level, but infrastructure providers killing apps like Parler, whether you're on,
Is there a question in here?
US or whatever, your server, your .com gets seized or shut down. Blockchains were created specifically,
Dude, oh my god.
as a fuck you to all of that, as a response to authority.
Get to the fucking question.
For money, we have a lot of Web3 smart contracts.
He's still priming.
Create censorship-resistant platforms that can't be shut down, no matter what laws they create.
He's-
So my question is, instead of just jumping from platform to platform as content creators, as the algorithms squeeze you out,
Still priming.
why are we not just jumping right to Web3 blockchain tech? Not only the content and the social graph.
That's the question out of all
The
that.
compute, the storage, the domains themselves. All of this tech is available now. Why are we not building aggressively for when we inevitably face the next wave of censorship? Thank you very much.
I mean, we're doing the best we can, but it's still immature a little bit. It's getting there, and I think everyone on this
I think
panel.
you'd be surprised how mature it's.
Oh, trust me. I mean,
I know, Nostr, you're killing it.
Yeah. No, yeah. We need to decomplexify it because people just aren't willing to be inconvenienced for freedom. So baking freedom into the apps is key, but people are going to stay where they are for now.
Well, and I think part of what we have to do a better job of, because I'm very passionate about this very topic, is messaging it more in a user-friendly manner. Because I think sometimes we get really passionate and excited about the future of Web3, but you have to go where consumers are. And on our platform, the average consumer on the platform is a 37-year-old mom with kids who's incredibly busy. She makes a majority of daily purchases in the household. So if you
How does
can
he
get
know
her
that?
involved and get her buying into what you're trying to build, you're going to shift the entire economy toward freedom, which is amazing. But
I guess that means that conservatives have to start paying attention to women's rights and women's, everything, if that's truly the case. Win over the appeal of the female base, I guess.
problem is that cohort of people are so busy. That's my wife. She doesn't have time to dive deep into the mechanics of why this is so important. So we have to actually make it accessible and friendly from a messaging perspective. I think we're way far along and very mature, actually, in the functional ability for these platforms to thrive and provide a safe outlet. What we're not mature in is how we're messaging it. And so I think we need to do a much better job of that.
1 second. I need to see, what actually... Hold on. So what actually is Web 3.0? Whatever they're saying. Web 3.0, sometimes known as Web 3, is the concept of the next generation of the web in which most users will be connected via a decentralized network and have access to their own data. This is, okay, can I get a little more information? So some of the key takeaways. Interesting. A bunch of tech shit. Berners-Lee pioneered the early development of the internet. Oh, I don't need to go that far. Web 3.0 represents the next phase of the evolution in web internet and potentially could be as disruptive and as big a paradigm shift as Web 2.0 was. Web 3.0 is built upon the core concepts of decentralization, openness, and greater user utility. There are definitely some risks that I can already identify with the decentralization part here. Berners-Lee expounded upon some of these key concepts back in the 90s, as outlined below. Decentralization. No permission is needed from a central authority to post anything on the web. That is not a good idea. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's good. There is no central controlling node, and there is... Yeah, this goes hand in hand with that first point. And there is no single point of failure and no kill switch that also implies freedom from indiscriminate censorship and surveillance. Well, this could also serve to do the opposite and restrict freedom. Like, if there's no kill switch here, then you're... So we always go to this example because it's still like a useful example in this circumstance. What about, like, so if there's no permissions needed from a central authority to post anything on the web, then by that logic, we could be posting not just like CP, but like any violent like media. It's not just like, it doesn't have to be like child porn or anything, but it could be like, you know, like really violent shit, like animal abuse shit. Yeah. There needs to be some like checks and balances in place, I think, and that would require the necessity for a central controlling node. So that way they can facilitate the process of investigating and determining if something is out of bounds, right? This is also kind of the case as well in like just society broadly, except it's enforced not necessarily from like a central authority, but from like society, from people. We as a collective society have accepted certain like things as being like acceptable or non-acceptable. Obviously, there are communities where that varies tremendously, but broadly speaking, I think your average person would like look at like something like murder and think that's pretty bad. So there are definitely things that we collectively have accepted as being like wrong or not allowed, and I don't know why. That's why I kind of take issue with this decentralization point, because like having there be no permission needed to post something or no controlling node, central controlling node, is probably going to be harmful because it could actually restrict the freedom of certain people. If you're posting child pornography, you're restricting the freedom of, you know, children by creating a more a greater market share, I guess, for lack of a better term, for like pedophiles and human trafficking. So this decentralization thing is probably not a good idea. Like, my immediate thoughts. I would have to probably think about it some more, but that's my immediate thing about this. Bottom-up design. Instead of code being written and controlled by a small group of experts, it was developed in full view. So this is just open source, encouraging maximum participation and experimentation. I don't know if I immediately have an issue with this, but there could be concern regarding damage to infrastructure. So, because if you have code that is open sourced or that is available for everybody, then like there could be programmers or nefarious actors who can exploit such code that they could circumnavigate some internet privacy laws or, you know, things like that, right? In a 2001 paper, Berners-Lee discussed the concept of what he refers to as a semantic web. Computers had no reliable way. So the defining features of Web 3.0 is decentralization, AI learning. Computers will be able to understand information similar to humans, even though the people on that panel seem to take issue with that. Through technologies based upon the semantic web, concepts of natural language processing. It's never going to be... No, I don't know. Web 3.0 will also use machine learning, which is a branch of AI. These capabilities will enable computers to produce faster and more relevant results. Yeah, I don't know. Potential pitfalls. Yeah, some of the things that are highlighted are things that I kind of brought up here. Cybercrime, hate speech, and misinformation are already difficult to police and will become even more difficult in a decentralized structure because of the lack of central control. There's also regulation issues. Okay, yeah, this is pretty. I'm getting like major libertarian shit associated with this, but additionally, it just doesn't seem like a necessarily like. There's some things that I think could be useful from this, like. I think that the utilization of AI machine learning could be beneficial insofar as it. Yeah, I think it's just great. It could bring greater utility to the users of, I guess Web 3.0. But there are definitely some issues. The decentralization thing is the major issue I take with that. Okay, now that we have kind of a general understanding, let's continue. Yeah. Let's see here. Sorry. Now I gotta fix it. There we go. Alright. Let's keep going. I don't know how much longer it is.
And we don't need the CIA with fact checkers running everything.
This is going to be our last question.
Pretty sure that it's not just the CIA who is fact checking. Like, I don't even think the CIA is even involved in that. And if they are, to what extent are they? Like, it seems like it's more so like when I think of fact checking, I think of like PolitiFact or something.
And unfortunately, we ran out of time for everyone. There will be a Q&A after the last panel.
All right, first of all, Alex, Luke, please talk more about LeBone on your shows. He is the key. Alex, I'm impressed. You dog, awesome, really good. Specifically, I want to ask Destiny. You spoke earlier about your belief that you think that the left and the right have good faith in their ideas. I posit to you, ideas are themselves possessive. They are not acting on good faith. They are acting on the faith of the ideas, which take hold of you. You act in their service, not the other way around.
This is a ridiculous claim to make. So he's referring to this general abstract concept of idea as like this metaphysical thing that possesses people. Like he's definitely got it backwards. Yeah. It's not the case that ideas grip humanity or humans. It is the other way around. So yeah. But I don't even know if he's framing Destiny's prescriptions accurately either. So.
And so my question to you is, why do you view everything through the lens of the group, only the group, and you approach absolutely everything from that point of view only?
What?
Can you clarify what do you mean approach everything through the lens of the group? I don't know what you mean by that.
Group thing,
Well, like if I'm speaking to an individual, I'll try to take the individual for where the individual's at. But if I'm talking about like conservatives or liberals or communists or fascists, I'm gonna have to talk about what the group thinks. It just depends on where the conversation is directed to.
Right.
Okay, but my point here is that each and every one of those topics, those are ideas. Those are ideas that are themselves the issue, not the group. You try and focus on this narrow point, and you get lost in the minutia of all of these things. You sat there and argued about, well, is Twitter really censoring people, or are they a private corporation? That's not the issue at hand. The issue at hand is the idea itself. It's the ideas that need to be brought forth. That's
the problem is that the reason why it's important to get into the almost the weeds and to have the very boring conversations to figure out what's actually happening is because ideally, if you're trying to make actionable citizens, if you're trying to get people that are listening to do something, and you're not just trying to sell fear or deep state or conspiracies or make money on getting people angry, you should be able to present a clear idea of like what has happened in a particular thing that people can prevent in the future. So, for instance, if we think that Twitter has engaged in an action
he can't control himself.
Then the goal would be to try to pressure Twitter to change the policy. If we think that Twitter is controlled by the deep state, state,
terms.
controlled by
You
CIA
talk
and the
about
government and
people
Epstein's
using
Island and all
terms.
this. What you're
You use
essentially telling your
conspiracy and
audience is no
come out
matter
in
what
Congress.
you do, nothing you say makes a
Corporations
difference.
and the deep
You
state
can't do
are
anything
censoring
to change
and
anything
controlling.
that's going on.
This is so.
So the reason why I like to focus on
Conspiracy. The conspiracy's been proven. Big tech, big banks trying to.
He literally can't help it. Like, yeah, he can't even sit down and listen for like a minute or two.
Suppress the people and create a monopoly. You keep using words like conspiracy theorists. Hey, man, people know what's going on.
The only thing you're doing with that type of speech is removing your audience from the voter pool. So, I mean, power to you if you want to talk that way. But at the
Okay,
end
so
of the
there
day,
were
people
congressional
don't feel like they
hearings
can do anything,
where big
right?
tech is suppressing election knowledge, medical knowledge, all this. It's a conspiracy theory. A little
So what do you want
throwaway
people to do
line.
about it?
He's like, you use words like conspiracy
Alex,
theory.
what do people do about it?
conspiracy theory.
What do you want people to do about it?
I want people to be aware of
No, not be aware. What do you want people to do about it? You've made them aware. Now, what are they supposed to do?
People.
This is the problem with your
You're not
platform.
letting me
It's
talk.
all you're doing.
You're trying to.
I'm sorry. I thought you were
Perry
doing it for like
makes a
15
moment.
years. I thought you
Well,
had a
hey,
quick
if
answer to
my
that. Go ahead.
platform's so weak, why are they trying to ban it?
Yeah, go ahead. What do you
That's
want
right.
people
This
to
has
do?
nothing to do with anything we're talking
I
about.
want to wreck the new world order. That's what I'm going to do. We need freedom of speech, open platforms without government and corporate censorship, and it'll all sort itself out. That's what I'm saying. And it's
So he doesn't have a plan, basically.
not a conspiracy theory that big, powerful corporations and governments get together to center and control and protect
platitudes.
themselves. And we fought hard to even get that basic truth out, and we are winning.
He didn't say anything.
The problem with people talking over each other is it's like painting two different colors of makeup on your face that you love.
Now we got the enlightened centrist to demystify the conversation for us. Amazing.
Both of the colors very much, but when you put them on your face, they turn brown. Not that brown's a bad makeup color.
What is that color blue jacket? Is that electric
This
blue?
is electric blue suede, Alex. Nice
Okay, guys, we're gonna do
All
a
right, we're doing a
switcheroo.
little swap because we're pretty much talking about the same stuff for the rest
didn't even
of the
plan it with
show.
your hair, man.
So Carrie, we're gonna do swap out a couple people.
Can we have a round of applause for these guys first?
Even though some of them were kind of crazy.
Destiny and I are dating. So everybody should know that.
They're secret gay lovers. I saw him making out behind the stage. But seriously, Destiny.
He's mad because I heard him earlier.
In all seriousness,
Dude,
in all seriousness,
the only person who's expressed any form of like impatience or like anger was you. Like he got triggered over the fact that Destiny referred to his ideas as conspiratorial.
thank you for challenging us. Thank you for giving a contrarian point of view, and thank you for being here and engaging in a conversation. And I just want to say I appreciate it.
All right, that's it. Wow. Woo, baby. That shit's wild. Ugh. Apparently there's another... Apparently there's more to it. Apparently, I don't know if I want to watch all of it.
The Hunter Biden laptop, which I have right here as a hard drive.
The Hunter Biden laptop story was not removed at the behest of the government, though.
Yoel Roth stated.
Yoel Roth testified 3 times in Congress
federal
that
testimony
no
that he
reference ever
said-
was made to the Hunter Biden laptop.
I will read Destiny. I will read it for
3
you.
times
if I
in
have
You're
to.
right. Hunter Biden's a great guy.
I will read it
Biden's not a
for you
Chinese
if I have
agent.
to.
You never bring the goods. You just have a throwaway line claim we're not giving it.
Sure, so the goods are that Elvis Chan, who was Yoel Roth's contact at the FBI, did not know that the FBI even had that laptop until the story broke, which he also testified in front of Congress about. He also testified in front of Congress that he did
Oh,
not, I can
boy.
read you the quotes if you want the testimony, that he never brought...
Now we're gonna get more into the Hunter Biden shit.
Everything's fine, folks.
So what you're saying is he was lying. So
Everything's
they
fine.
equivocated.
It's not lying. You're reading one quote and you're trying to read it in a certain way. We can look at the conversations that they were having internally over whether they should have censored that story or not.
China.
There's something wrong with these guys.
Actual attorney sitting next to us who knows he's a free speech lawyer. I mean, we need to. Have you noticed any total BS that has come out on stage so far, Adam?
Well, I guess yes is the answer. Although I'm still trying to get my mind around the idea of inviting a lawyer to a comedy club. But okay, I'll go with that. But yeah, there's been, I think, as law professors would confidently say, much confusion in some of the areas of the law, and maybe we talk about it.
What specifically?
Well, let's start with the Twitter files. So, Twitter is a private company; it can do as it wishes. But when it acts at the behest of government, as the Supreme Court, exactly, and when it acts at the behest of government, when it does, as the Supreme Court says, government cannot do through a private individual what it cannot do itself. And that's what we're having. The idea that Twitter, that the government just goes to Twitter and says, oh, by the way, would you mind banning this? And they look at it like that request like it came from you. That's not what's happening. The Twitter files show that almost half of the government requests for censorship result in action by Twitter. That's not a private entity. That's government censorship, and I think that's obvious. And that's not just me. In fact, a federal court in the state of Louisiana, in a lawsuit by the state of Louisiana and Missouri, alleging that Twitter was a state actor, has pretty much said that they made the prima facie case and is allowing the question to go to trial. So, whether it is true, we will find out. But the fact that it's dismissible or absurd is wrong. I mean, it's legally wrong.
Okay, so it's not dismissible and it's not absurd. The question is it happening? That's, I think, what we want to demonstrate, and I think that's what the Twitter files have over and over again failed to demonstrate, is the government making, not just any request, but is the government making an inappropriate request to censor something off of Twitter that it shouldn't be doing. And I don't believe that was ever demonstrated. You can't just say that every request for censorship is illegal. For instance, I'm sure you would agree, if the government were to bring to Twitter's attention illegal activity that's happening on Twitter, they are fully within their rights to make that request, and Twitter is fully within their rights to take that content down, should they deem necessary.
Yes, but this whole thing reminds me of the story of Henry Plantagenet, Henry II, and Thomas Becket. If anyone remembers it,
Man for all seasons.
Yeah, that's right. No, actually, it's a few generation before, but close enough. It's Murder in the Cathedral. Any case, yeah, okay, yeah. But Henry II was surrounded by his highly armed barons, and he got an argument with Thomas Becket, and he said, "Well, no one rid me of this turbulent priest," knowing that his highly armed barons were all around there. And what did the barons do? It's like, well, this is a government request. Let's march down to Canterbury and assassinate Thomas Becket. Now, was it government speech when Henry II said, "Will no one rid me of this turbulent priest"? Of course it was. And similarly, I worked in D.C. I was Assistant Secretary of Commerce for the National Telecommunications and Information Authority. I could see how pressure is brought by government to get certain actions done in the private sector, and we have to be blind not to see that.
Sure, but so if we have to be blind not to see it should be easy to point it out. So, for instance, Twitter adhered to, I believe it was less than 40% of the requests that the government made for accounts getting taken down. For the ones that they didn't follow through on, was there repercussion for it? Were they actually being pressured? Did any of the internal emails make Twitter seem like they were worried about what the response would be from the government if they didn't follow through on any of those requests? Because I didn't see a single instance of any of this. Was there?
Well, there are two responses. First of all, government doesn't have to give you a specific threat to make you feel afraid of it. I mean, as Ronald Reagan says, what's the most scary sentence you can ever hear? I'm from the government. I'm here to help.
There's nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Twitter was going, the government was going to go and, imprison Jack Dorsey, or make him take out his nose earring, if he didn't censor these people. That's not the way it works. I mean, the way it works is I think generalized threats are good enough. And the point is, the way the government works,
were there threats is the question. I didn't see any of that. Right, so that what I think is significant is that the government, Twitter didn't follow the rules it didn't think it needed to, or at least didn't agree with. So it still had that freedom. But the question is, did government actually?
Yeah, I need a better weapon. That's the thing.
Right. So if there's a law enforcement issue, you can see how they come in and say, hey, there might be some false information that could lead to people getting killed. Who knows? Maybe this minority over here is thinking about like what they do with the Rohingya. I think there were some examples on Facebook, but I don't think the government could be. Would be you couldn't point to probably any threats, could you? Am I wrong about that?
Well, I mean, I think you could. I mean, when I talk to industry in that position, I mean, think of all the things the government can do to these companies. They can change their preferred tax status. They can change their Section 230 special status. They can
just because they can doesn't mean it will influence the ability. First off, just because they can doesn't mean they will. But second off, that doesn't necessarily always translate to their private entities being influenced by like certain threats through coercion. Like yeah.
What's that?
Yeah,
a little bit.
But they didn't do any of that.
Oh, well, actually, they threatened to at times.
Well, yeah, but the Section 230 threats all come from Republicans.
No, Biden often talks about how we need to clean up the internet and they have to do more. It's a constant refrain from the Democrats is that
having to do more. Hold on. Having to do more to clean up the internet is far different than threatening Section 230, which I've heard repeated multiple times by multiple Republican lawmakers. I believe Trump himself has talked about Section 230. That is a huge conservative talking point. I think Jack over here has probably even talked about Section 230. That's definitely a conservative talking point.
It is, but the Democrats talk about it just as much, and they often talk about,
No, they don't.
As they have in California, as they have in New York, hate speech crimes, hate speech laws against
this is a little
social media
slower.
companies.
Wait, there are hate speech laws in the United States of America?
Yeah, one was just declared unconstitutional in New York State, and one is.
So they're trying to pass them, but I don't mind
they,
understanding.
they are passed.
So you're telling me that if I go to New York or some state and I tweet out like a racial slur, I can actually get criminal action against me?
No, the way the statute worked is that it required the platforms to keep track of hate speech, whatever that means, and really define it, and create lists of people who are producing.
I highly doubt that is the case. Usually in these laws, there is very much detail oriented around like what certain terminology means. Like we've read certain laws on like stream before. Like whenever they're referring to something that is like usually adopted by common vernacular but not quite exactly defined, it is almost always like defined within the piece of legislation itself, and I'm sure that's also the case for Section 230.
Hateful speech, and have that available and disclose it. So essentially, it was sort of a forced auto doxing by these platforms. And
That's
and
pretty
so
disingenuous.
You sort of say, oh, the Democrats aren't going to hurt the social media companies. They do, and they have.
These are the ones, if I remember correctly, it's California and New York, and then Minds, and I think Tim Pool actually has Luke's
And Babylon Bay.
behavior.
Yeah, we just.
All of them are like conservative.
Right. Are actually in a lawsuit on this law, right?
It's the path towards direct hate speech laws. They're basically requiring social media companies to have specific policies about these clearly charged topics: misinformation, disinformation, hate speech, extremism, and radicalization. None of them are actually defined, and this is currently passed in California. So it's a step in the direction of actually getting fined for hate speech.
So returning to the original part for Twitter, okay?
Keep
so
coping,
a
bitch.
lot of times we say things like it's nuanced, it's complicated. However, you're a lawyer, so I want you to break this down for us. I really want to know, when you talk about how there's this idea of a generalized threat from the government to Twitter that was prompting Twitter to act, why did we not see any of that in the emails? No concern for lack of ability to act on a government request. Why did we not see any type of even implicit repercussion for Twitter not following through on banning accounts that the government would highlight as problematic?
That's not true at all, though. You do see that in the Twitter files.
Where?
You see that in the people who are responding to Yoel Roth that are currently working for the Biden administration in the NSC, and the other one, she's, I think Buttigieg's like policy advisor at Secretary of Transportation, specifically when they were talking about things like the Hamilton 68 files, when they were saying, when Yoel Roth was saying, look, this Hamilton 68, to your point, was saying that this was just a bunch of BS. We don't think these are Russian actors. We think these are just conservatives. But there were people internally at Twitter saying that so Yoel Roth wanted to put out a statement pushing back on the Hamilton 68. This is in that, I don't know, tranche, you could say, I guess. And there were people at Twitter that were saying we need to think of the bigger picture. They were making statements like, we need to be careful how we go back with this. They were worried about pushing back.
And also, if I could just interrupt here, government action is not shown not simply by threats, but as the courts of appeals have said, coordinated action. And I think that gets to Jack's point. We have
So what does that mean?
where those social media companies, they're filled with personnel who do this revolving door between the social media companies and the security states, or in those weird nonprofit organizations that play this weird intermediate role. And so, they are coordinating this action. And yeah, I mean, if I were an aspiring member of this like weird group that's censoring the internet, I wouldn't put it in an email. They're smart enough not to know.
Okay, and I love that you said that. So then we agree the Twitter file showed nothing because it wouldn't have shown up in an email then. But that's a markedly different statement than the Twitter file showed us that this censorship existed.
No, that's not true. I mean, something can show something explicitly and something implicitly.
There wasn't anything shown implicitly, though. That's the issue. There was nothing there.
There was. I mean, if I went to Twitter and I said remove, 10 posts and none of them will be removed, and the government went and almost half of them did, I think that that's something there.
But the good faith question that I find nobody does here is what posts were removed and why.
The Hunter Biden laptop.
The Hunter Biden laptop story. Yeah, we did this one. The Hunter Biden laptop.
The Hunter
story.
laptop, which I have right here as a hard drive.
The Hunter Biden laptop story was not removed at the behest of the government.
Yoel Roth stated.
Yoel Roth testified 3 times in Congress that the
testimony
no reference ever was made to the Hunter Biden laptop.
I will read Destiny. I will read it for you.
Times
No, you're right. Hunter Biden's a great guy.
I will read it
Biden's not
for
a
you
Chinese
if I have
agent.
to.
Oh, I forgot.
Everything's fine.
Alex Jones is still at this?
Here we go.
I did not know that.
Skywalker.
And it's very
Like
simple.
back in 2016. We can scream if you want, it's fun. That's all good.
It's very simple. I'll pull it up on Twitter.
I was just up there hanging out with your wife. She's a nice lady.
Jesus Christ. We're really what?
No, that was your wife.
Are we allowed to pull people up from the
No, my
audience?
wife was hanging out with her too. No, I mean.
Well, I was hanging out with her first.
That's right. Jack already was hanging out with him. And then I was there. That's always better. Like being like.
I appreciate you stalling while I could look this up.
No, seriously, your wife's a really nice lady.
Yeah, no, I wish we were here tonight, but she's not. She's fine with the kids. So he talks about this is the FEC statement that he made December of 2020
Damn, that's a lot of bugs.
about the RNC. And the RNC sued, and they said the takedown of this laptop, which I think, can we all at least agree that was censorship, right?
Of course.
Right?
It was
Censorship
election meddling.
that enabled an election interference, information that was prevented from being received by the American people.
That the
story is
FBI knew
about
was
this.
real.
So here's what Yoel Roth said.
Dude, everything has to be a
Federal law
grander
enforcement
conspiracy.
Agencies, and specifically mentioned the Office of the Director of National Intelligence.
Like, he can't go
Department of
a second
Homeland
without,
Security,
like,
and industry
bringing up
peers.
the FBI
They
deep state.
communicated they expected hack and leak operations by state actors might occur in the period shortly before the 2020 presidential election, likely in October. I was told that the intelligence communities expected that the individuals associated with the local campaigns would be subject to hacking and disseminated over social media platforms, including Twitter. And I also learned in these meetings that the rumors that a hack and leak operation would involve Hunter Biden. And then it just goes through and says there.
That's true. However, later on under oath, he clarified that exact statement,
Which is perjury, and he should go to jail
no,
for that.
that's not perjury.
That's perjury.
He gave that quote.
Hey,
he said
America
No,
didn't
I'm with
sell
you.
out to
He
China.
definitely perjured himself.
Everything's right. We didn't sell out to China. Everything's fine. We're all going to buy our electric vehicles from them and our solar panels. We've been screwed by the globalists in China.
So what contribution does Alex Jones actually bring to the, like, to this panel? Like, actually, like, it's really just like him using it as a platform to, like, say the same bullshit over and over again. Even if it doesn't have anything to do with what they're talking about.
China. Calm down, Alex. Thank you for your vote.
I went to GGP and gave me hundreds of billions of dollars.
Tesney has a rebuttal, please.
Later on under oath, Yoel Roth clarified that any references made to Hunter Biden were from other social media representatives. It did not come from the government. There was
He
never.
says right
there
here
was
that
never.
they-
There's audio recordings with Hunter going, I work with the head of Chinese intelligence, Dad. They arrested me. What are we going to do?
Are they okay? Like, actually, I'm, like, genuinely curious about their mental health.
Hunter Biden impersonation.
Okay.
He's got more soda in his voice.
That's what he's right. Hunter Biden laptop is not real, folks.
I don't see any crack pipe stands on your finger. Now, I have a question, because I'm more of a novice with this stuff. You guys
But I mean, he says it straight up in the testimony.
He clarifies 3 times under oath later on that the request did not come from the government. There was not a specific request
says
from
right-
the
it
government.
says right
I understand
here.
you can read that one quote all you want.
The
3
point
times
is-
later on,
again,
in
let him talk for a minute.
This
This
argument
is
is
the
beside
This is the guy
point.
who censored the election. I think that
As a
quote's
legal
pretty
matter, this is beside the point. I mean, it doesn't matter. You don't have to say, oh, if you don't do 1, 2, 3, and the government's going to punish you, and you have to show that direct threat in order to get government action. That's one way to do it, but you can also show it through coordinated action. And I think anyone looking at the whole.
Okay, so once again, this man is failing to demonstrate what exactly coordinated action means. Because, like, that's kind of important. Like, it's like central to his claim here that they don't need to be explicit about the threats that they levy against certain private entities or whatever, but rather that it can be implied or implicit threats. So that is conducted through apparently coordinated action. What does that mean, though?
What's going on if you're fair with the evidence, and that is what a jury is going to determine in a few months in some of the law cases that have been brought against Twitter in the United States government.
Yeah, I guess the question is, where is the retribution from the government? Like implied or general or whatever. Like, what is it? Like, point to one.
What would the retribution be for they committed the censorship? Why would they need to?
The FBI called up and said, we want you to suppress this. The Russians created it, maybe fake, and they knew it was real 2 years before. Period. Case closed.
But every administration...
Actually, to Alex's point, the FBI already had this, so they knew it was real.
You didn't know if every single person in the FBI or the FBI guy coordinating with Twitter knew that they had that hard drive.
It's a pretty specific
The
request.
FBI liaison to Twitter said it's not real when they knew it was real.
They did not say that to Twitter.
Look,
they said, we believe this is Russian disinformation. You should suppress it.
Yeah, this came out in the Louisiana lawsuit when Elvis Chan was meeting. So Elvis Chan is the FBI agent meeting with Yoel Roth and others with Jayakade at Twitter and others. They specifically talked about this Hunter Biden hack and leak operation as if it was fake information. Yet he testified that he knew that the FBI at the time had recovered in 2019 the actual, and still we presume they still have custody of the actual laptop that was left in Delaware.
And what amazes me is the way the liberals have changed on this. I mean, when I grew up, no self-respecting Democrat or liberal would be comfortable.
Yeah, so we're about to go onto a side tangent that has nothing to do with what really what we're talking about. This is just like kind of like like throwing a tantrum like a little kid at the fucking checkout aisle, being like yelling at mommy because they couldn't get a Snickers bar or something. Like, this is just like bitching and moaning about like liberals like changing their stance about something that apparently has taken place, when also they're probably misrepresenting the Twitter files as well as everything else they've talked about up to this point.
If the CIA and the Homeland surveillance and security there.
I don't even know who this guy is.
We're sitting with the New York Times editorial board and telling them what stories to cover. No liberal. I grew up in a very liberal environment. They would be horrified.
Flip out.
They would flip out. Now, however, they're like, yeah, let's go do it. Oh, simply because there wasn't a death threat from DNI or CISA.
But you did have administrations like Lyndon Johnson calling the Chicago Sun, etc., and telling them to hold on to stories.
Yeah, they did, and people criticized it. They thought it was wrong. And what has happened to the left that no one says it's wrong anymore? That's the problem.
Well, I mean, every administration...
It's such crybaly shit.
To their end.
Yes.
So my question is, it seems to me that this is an economy of influence. So if you
I
have
need to
social media
increase my
companies,
strength.
just like if you have media companies in general, whoever's in power is going to do their best to get an angle and make sure that they're covered favorably versus
But
unfavorably.
they've got an angle of the 800-pound gorilla where they're dominating all the
How do you avoid that? We've never been able to avoid that. I'm wondering if you're going to have these private companies and they're going to sway one way or another, right? It seems to be that most of the young people at Google and these companies tend to lean, let's just say, left in general, right?
98%.
It's hard. It's very difficult to then change that with a law.
So
right?
just let the public
what would
see
you
it
say?
all.
Right.
Let us decide.
Actually, there is a law. It was passed by the great state of Texas. Thank you very much. HB 20, which prohibits viewpoint discrimination by the social media companies. So that means that they can't kick people off because you're Republican or you have political views that Jack Dorsey says, and
That's a really bizarre law to have. So, like, you could really, like, take that to the extreme. Like, you could, because, like, by that logic, we could basically say, like, to be a conservative is to be pro-child marriage. And, like, associated with that would be, like, pedophilia, right? So, like, a part of the ideology becomes something that overlaps with something that is already illegal or something that should be illegal if it's not. That's a really poorly defined law. Like, you know what I mean? Like, if a part of the ideology is literally, like, being pro-pedophilia or something, then, not saying for sure that is what the representation of, conservative ideology has become. To some extent it has, but, like, if it fully embraces that kind of thing, then, like, by that law, it would just be in conflict with, like, other shit, right? Like, isn't, like, pedophilia, like, banned on social media or whatever?
it's fair. Well, it's the same rule that applies to this comedy club.
It's not a fair
They can't kick you
rule.
out because you're black or you're Jewish or you're gay. And the same way, social media companies shouldn't be able to kick you out because you're Republican.
Okay, but those things that he just listed are innumerable characteristics. In other words, they are things you cannot change about yourself. Like, you're born black or you're born, like, whatever. The thing, like, being a conservative is something cultivated over an extended period of time in your life. It's environmental.
And this is a key difference because what you mentioned was newspapers, right? But a social media company is not a newspaper. It is fundamentally different. A newspaper has an editor, they have reporters, they have people who are deciding, and some sort of hierarchical process determining.
Wait, hold on. So, this comparison is already flawed. So, social media, yes, they are different from, like, editor, like, newspaper organizations, I guess, because, like, they serve different, like, goals. Like, social media is a platform for people to participate in discussions and talk about shit. Newspapers are designed more so for disseminating news and articles and shit. So the goals are different. However, in terms of, like, the authority that goes into these controls or goes into these social media platforms, that's still in exist. Like, there's still, like, hierarchy and shit, right? Like, they have, like, TOS and people who are responsible for, like, legal stuff and for infrastructure. Like, yeah, I mean, there's, like, a bunch of shit that goes into it.
Front page. But a social media company is closer to a communications platform. So it's closer to you using, I would argue, and this is more, I guess, philosophical than legal, but I would argue it's closer to you picking up your cell phone and calling somebody, or I guess
It's a
texting
utility.
somebody.
Right, and
So the social media company
that's a good
comes
point,
more than that.
because one of the defenses I've heard even from the right is the idea that Twitter was a private company and it wasn't the public square, even though it was treated that way. So that would be an effective defense, it seems. I don't agree. I think that they did seem to have a bias, but for the most part, they can still claim they're a private company. That algorithm was created by someone like Jack Dorsey, whoever.
But they were being directed by government consortiums and secret think tanks on dashboards on what to censor.
What is he talking about?
That is fascism by definition.
Okay, first off, that's not what fascism means, but it's I shouldn't expect Alex Jones to accurately characterize anything. But additionally, how did he? This is what I mean. Like, they have, like, their talking points, and they just need to shoehorn it in some way, some fashion. Like, I will admit that, like, the other people on this panel have been less guilty of that. But Alex Jones, on a consistent basis, has demonstrated he is not really taking the conversation seriously. It's more so using it as a vector for his own like NPC dialogue tree.
Right, and then,
And then he gets
the
met with
question
applause.
before us is, you know, we can go back and forth all day about, you know, did they break specific laws? Did they violate the First Amendment? Some people would argue yes, some people might disagree because you don't see it in the specific email. Got it, cool. But the bigger question, I think, going forward is, okay, we can't put the genie back in the bottle of social media or whatever comes next in terms of social intercommunication, right? We're going to have, so VR is probably the next level, Oculus, all the metaverse, all these different things. So we've got to come up with some way as a society, right? If we want to have individual liberty, if we want to have freedom, if we want to continue to have freedom of speech, and by the way, especially in the weeks right before a major presidential election, right? So it's also the repercussions here. This isn't like, you know, somebody posted, you know, like Alex Jones posted a meme and he got banned for 12 hours. This is actual information that was prevented from getting to the American people.
But the biggest problem, I think, is not. I think it's taken care of.
I highly wait. Just to be clear, I'm not necessarily disagreeing with the premise he's proposing, but like this information being provided to the American people, like Americans don't give a like. You really think your average American's doing like research into all this shit that these guys are? Your average American makes their decisions on who they're going to vote for based on like how aggressively each campaign will advertise in their local area, as well as who they interact with on a daily basis, as well as what they grew up with. So it's not like, yeah, it's not like they're doing their research and due diligence. Like, most Americans are just, like, voting based on, like, you know, in predictable patterns, mind you. Usually the incumbent is favored in a re-election, or, like, an election where they can go again, but, yeah. Anyway, I'm digressing.
There are Rumble and all these different platforms are coming up, Minds. But my worry is that no one can agree on a fixed point of truth. Nobody can agree even on the sources.
So why should we?
Sorry?
So why should we?
Right. I mean, it's like
That's why the Wild West
why
is
should
what we
we?
want.
Well, I worry though that we can't. It's very difficult to even agree on.
Yeah, it really feels like they're like engaging in some kind of moral nihilism, like for lack of a better term. Like basically, like nothing matters, and like you can't trust anything, but you can trust me because I'm calling out the people who are like manipulating your minds and trying to sell fucking whatever to you. Like, yeah, I mean, like it's like this whole idea like nothing matters and like everything, like this nihilistic attitude towards everything. It's like it reduces everything down to nothing, to the point where the people who are giving you that information are going to appear more trustworthy because they're the ones who are giving you the truth. You know, it's just like it feels very manipulative.
What the truth is. So if I were to say, well, here's what I think, and then you say, where'd you get that? I'd say, well, Fox News, and you stop me, you cut me off with the me. Somebody would say, that's bullshit because they lie across the board. Right. And then we can't even actually have a dialogue. And that's what I think is the biggest worry. That it seems to me that there doesn't seem to be, we for the first time in history, information is so atomized, and we have been able to purify our echo chambers. And so it's very easy to surround myself with people that agree with me. And pretty soon I start thinking that is the only truth. Right.
Well, I don't know
how to get out of that.
All the congressional hearings and all the evidence.
So yeah, I think that like immediately discarding something based on the source isn't always that bad. That might be a hot take, but I kind of believe it. There's certainly some sources that are just have such a bad reputation that like if you see something from there, then like it's not like. Sometimes it's not unreasonable to just go like, okay, well that's fucking bullshit, right? Especially depending on if the claims are pretty like inflammatory. Like I'm not gonna like immediately read a headline from InfoWars and go like, oh, you know what? They might have a point. Let me go and do my own like no, fuck that. Like their reputation has been sufficiently demonstrated to be untrustworthy, so I'm not gonna like, you know, like there's some sources where that's the case.
Populist conservatives, classic Americans, classical liberals are under attack, or being censored, or being targeted, or being debanked, or being harassed. So we know that the establishment has wrapped itself in a...
Huh. I like the subtle dog whistle there. They're being debanked. I wonder who he's referring to.
And they are attacking and censoring and surveilling, because it's not just censoring.
That's actually something Kanye said. Like,
we have the documents. We know there's been a huge campaign of suppressing populist voices that are against the establishment Washington global consensus. So let's just not lie about that.
So that's not exactly what populism means. Populism isn't, as far as I'm concerned, an ideology, or it's hard to even describe it as an ideology. It's something people use to justify this like broader libertarian attitude towards like towards the government, like how the government is like trying to censor you or shit like that. Like, yeah. I see it like invoked in really dishonest ways, and it's become kind of weaponized by conservatives for the most part.
And if the pendulum starts swinging back and the right wing becomes authoritarian, like George W. Bush, I'll be against it like I was then. But right now, the big corporations posing as liberals are kicking our ass and are surveilling us and censoring us and controlling us. And we just need to get down to brass tacks and say, go back to the Wild Wild West, let the public make their own decisions, turn off all the controls other than going after criminals. That's the only answer.
Stephen,
And that's a really dumb answer.
No, I know it might not be as much fun if you agreed or were against the Twitter files, but like, are you or were against? Like, are you actually okay with what was happening with the government in Twitter?
Well, I think that's the interesting question, is nobody seems to know what the government was doing. It seems like everybody thinks that like the government was there to try to censor bad media about political opponents of Donald Trump, and that was the whole point. The real answer, I think, is that post-2016, I think there is a huge scare that online platforms are being used, especially by foreign adversaries that are misrepresenting themselves to try to change the public discourse. So the question is should our intelligence agencies be involved in any size, shape, or form in alerting the alerting social media to these things? And I think that's an interesting question. I think that there's room for communication there. There probably needs to be a lot of transparency. I know before Elon acquired Twitter, they would, for instance, they post a report at the end of the year showing how many government requests they got or how many they fulfilled, the percentage that they fulfilled. But I don't think the idea that the government can't communicate whatsoever or give any sort of heads up whatsoever to companies is the answer. I don't think it's very realistic. And I think there's probably ways to do that.
Let me just say this. Prior to Elon taking over, anybody knew you tried to post a medical doctor criticizing shots, you got banned. You tried to post somebody questioning an election result, whether they're right or wrong, they're banned. You try to question, you show a video of an open border, you're banned. Everybody experienced being...
Wait, you post a picture of an open border and you get... What does that even mean? Like, you post a picture of the Mexican United States border and you get banned? What?
Banned. So you can gaslight people all day. They know they got suppressed for what...
That's not what gaslighting means, by the way. But, again, almost nobody uses the term properly.
They saw and what they did, and that's not fair. We should be able to watch...
Gaslighting is when you disagree with me.
What's real, what's fake. I'm not worried about deep fakes. Anybody can watch something and say, that's not Joe Rogan saying that. That's a deep fake. And if an idiot gets fooled by it, that's fine. The control over arbitrating what's real and what's not is what we should really worry about.
Yeah, and
again, this comes back to the... Oh, man, these guys live such a weird existence. Like, nothing... Like, again, it comes back to this whole idea of, like, nothing matters. We can never know what's actually true. And, like, but you can trust me, right? Because I'm calling it out. Like, it's... Everything is like this broad conspiracy theory. It's like, it's insane, man. And unfortunately, many people get warped into this kind of like perspective.
Also, if I could just say, this is not just politics. I mean, to me, one of the things that's motivating is what happened to people like Jay Bhattacharya and Kuldorf at Harvard, who were great epidemiologists who were censored by the social media companies because they had a different point of view about COVID, and they turned out to be right about. But
Adam,
what's interesting, because I've seen some of we've kind of gone over some of these guys on stream, like maybe not the exact people he's referring to, but we have gone over some of the more COVID skeptic kind of physicians, I guess, on stream, and it turns out that many of them, and just not on stream, but also off stream, but many of them turn out to be like super conservative, which is an interesting overlap, if you ask me. It's almost like being conservative and being a COVID skeptic are positively correlated, and for the most part, the medical community has accepted the efficacy of vaccines and the existence of COVID.
Turned out to be right.
They turned out to be right.
Adam,
They weren't just censored, they were
Wait, they were right about what, though?
right.
Adam, speaking to what Destiny just said, like, where do you see any wiggle room for the government to reach out?
I don't think the government has a business in our speech unless it's a crime.
Oh, what does that mean?
Look, you go to DC and you have all these people from the intelligence agencies talking about there's misinformation and disinformation, and I was once corrected, confusing the two.
They're the worst purveyors.
Right, and the point is, the cure is as always, it's more information.
Buy my pillow. Did you know that Sobek secretly married Mike Lindell 2 years ago in Las Vegas?
Alex, I told you that in confidence. You said you would be our witness if I paid you off.
The difference is I'm marrying him. He's mine.
Amazing.
I saw him first. It was that mustache. It began with that dang mustache.
It's a sexy
bar there. You could talk to him if you'd like. So.
Mike Lindell's up there?
No, don't get too excited.
Oh my God. Is Mike Lindell really here tonight?
Not really surprised to see he looks like
He's entertaining as hell. We need to get him down here. No, Jack and I battle over Mike Lindell. He was married to him for a month, me for a month. It's like a
We're joint custody.
Cool.
we're having a child. It was Super Mario
So,
Brothers.
Steven, but about the coordinated action that Adam is discussing, I feel like that term hasn't really come up, and like that is a.
Well, yeah, because we haven't defined it.
I think the issue, I think what's happening is we're in a new era where there's a lot of information. There's huge platforms that have huge levers on American society for control over our elections, right? The information that propagates on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter is affecting a lot of people. There's a lot of people that watch it. There's a lot of people that make decisions based off of it. And I think social media platforms are trying to navigate this really difficult terrain of figuring out how much responsibility they feel they have to that public discourse. But I mean, the conversation is infinitely shitted up with the fake request for the Hunter Biden laptop that didn't happen, or the censoring of
Hunter
Republicans or
Biden's
whatever.
fake.
It's on the
So we never-
Conspiracy,
we never
not
actually
election
have-
meddling.
we never actually
These
have-
throwaway lines. Oh, it's fake.
I'd be happy
the
to
fake
share the link,
request for
man.
Hunter Biden's
It's
laptop.
still on
Dude, you
FEC.com.
never bring the goods. You
Literally
just throw
can't
lines
go
and claim they're not getting it.
a second without being
The
triggered.
goods are, sure. So the goods are that Elvis Chan, who was Yora's contact at the FBI, did not know that the FBI even had that laptop.
I have a
Testimony
lot of
quote, which he
redos,
also
not gonna
testified
lie.
in front of Congress about. He also testified in front of Congress that he did not. I can read you the quotes if you want the testimony. That he never brought up Hunter Biden.
So we're not
You're wrong.
sold out to China. Everything's fine, folks. Go
So what
home,
you're
go
saying
sleep.
is he was lying. So
Everything's
they
fine.
equivocated.
It's not lying. You're reading one quote and you're trying to read it in a certain way. If
No,
we
you're
look at
right.
the email, we can look at the emails for Twitter and we can look at the conversations that they were having internally over whether they should have censored that story or not. None of them were saying.
But you're putting the onus. You're putting the
says,
onus
I told
on
the
us.
prosecutor.
Wait, Alex. So what I'm saying is, the onus should be on the people who did the censoring, not the people who were upset about it.
Wait,
They
the
are
onus
the
by
ones
who? It's a private company.
by Twitter and the FBI. The onus should be on them to explain their actions to the American people. And you and I have just gone back and forth
Should
here.
every moderation action that a public or I'm sorry, that a private platform takes, do they owe the public an explanation on all of that?
No, I actually agree. Hunter Biden for president.
Wait, hold on. Here's a really important question.
Well, actually,
Is it
no.
possible-
Actually, in all seriousness, when you sign your terms of service to any platform, that is binding. And if you change your laws, and the courts found this out in the Alex Berenson lawsuit when they came up with the COVID strikes, and that was the policy. So they didn't follow their own policy.
In general, Section 230 protects them. Berenson was very lucky. But
He got lucky, I know, but the judge was able to hand it to him by saying that because they didn't follow their own policy, which he had agreed to, and just banned him outright because they felt like it, that they had actually broken their agreement with the user. So yes, they do owe it to the users.
But if I was Twitter,
I'm learning a lot.
My concern, actually, as somebody who's a free speech advocate, I do think that we are in a unique time in history where these platforms allow information to diffuse so quickly, and you could plant a fake story if you were smart enough that could potentially turn people off to elect to
Like
voting for a
President Trump
candidate.
once
You mean like what the media does to Trump?
That is an issue, right? So if that's an issue, how do we avoid that? Well, we can go back and forth about whether or not
Having that governor on it is more dangerous.
Don't interrupt, Brian.
I think that's almost an impossible thing to avoid. Really, there's always going to be fake news posted. It's almost impossible. And the alternative, or rather the solution, quote unquote, that is posited by these kind of guys, especially Alex Jones, is to go back to the wild west, which would only serve to be even worse because there would be nobody to hold those accountable for propagating false or misleading news stories. So that's pretty fucked up.
Let the public figure it out. Listen, they
Let the public figure it out. How?
The president been censored off the platform for no reason.
But you
They
agree,
have
Alex,
dictators on there.
Alex, you
they
agree?
take Trump off.
You would agree, though, it is possible to float. Somebody who's creative enough can float a sensational story that all of us would go, "What?" and then change our vote.
No,
and
I agree. So we need the CIA to protect us.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that is an issue.
Oh shit! Hold on one second.
I'm old
Yes or
enough. When I was going to the supermarket with my mom, there were all of these things called the National Enquirer and the Daily Globe with these absurd, sensational stories.
Hello? Okay. I don't have too much longer, so we are going to go skip the conversation a little bit.
Times there are so many like super organizations built up that the listener at the end of the day, you guys have no idea what the you're supposed to do. There's nothing actionable. And if you're just listening to political commentators that are feeding you fear, that are feeding you resignation, that are telling you that the entire what? You don't, that's fine that you don't agree with it. That's what Alex Jones said. Rewind the tape. Go to rumble.com/live/Destiny. You can watch the whole thing again. That's exactly what he told you. I asked him specifically. I specifically asked a question because I asked everybody this question. What do you want people to do? And that's really important.
Dude,
So what do you want people to do?
wait, hold on. He's still asking. It's still the same shit. Like they still have not. Like they're still on the same. I skipped, by the way. I skipped like an hour into the conversation. A little more than an hour, and they're still talking about this. Wow.
Use words like conspiracy
Alex,
theory.
what do people do about it?
Conspiracy theory.
What do you want people to do about it?
I want people to be aware of.
No, not be aware. What do you want people to do about it? You've made them aware. Now what are they supposed to do?
People.
This is the problem with your
You're not
platform.
letting me talk.
All you're
Oh, you're trying to.
I'm sorry. I thought you were doing like 15 years. I thought you
Well,
were
hey, if my platform's so weak, why are they trying to ban it?
Yeah, go ahead. What do you want people
What are
to do?
you gonna do, boy?
What do you want people to do,
I'm
Alex?
gonna wreck the new world order. That's what I'm gonna do.
So he doesn't. Again, he doesn't answer the
Who
question.
cares about a conversation? What we need at the end of the day is you need no, lady. You guys have had conversations about this shit for a decade. What are you gonna do about it? Right? You have to do more than talk. You've got to.
But he's talking. He's talking.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're kind of discrediting this engagement. Like, I feel like overall it's been pretty positive.
I don't need you to defend me, okay? Listen, okay? I took my fan base out. I spent $150,000 of my money, and I took my fan base out, and we went to canvas for political candidates. Because I think that's important, right? Encouraging people to register to vote, encouraging people to get involved in the local communities. These are the types of actions. Exactly. These are the types of actions
Destiny
that change
is
the political landscape. That
destroying
guy up here, the guy
them.
that came up here that said he hated me or whatever, or I don't know if he said that. That guy, yeah, sure. Stop. That guy that came up here, from all the personal relationships he's developed, sounds like he's had more political effectiveness than 99% of the people in this room. But it's because he's getting involved on a local level. But if all you do is tell people that the CIA, the NSA, the government, the deep state, that all of these things are out to get you, then at the end of the day, what are you going to do? You're not going to vote? You're not going to get involved in the process?
Excuse me, I mean... But would you agree that he's having a conversation, though? He is engaging, isn't he?
Dude, it's not just about having the conversation. Is this guy deaf? Is he not listening to what Destiny has said the past, like, 3 minutes now? It's not enough to just talk about and whine about the deep state, like, canceling you. You need to go out there and do shit. Vote, participate in activism, like, anything. Except for what you're doing, it's like, just having the conversation is not enough to like, be, like, to make a difference, you know?
He's not? He's not engaging? Wait, hold on. All he's saying, guys, I probably agree with most of the people listening. All he's saying is that it's one thing to speak and have a bunch of talking points. It's another thing to come up with actionable things that make a difference. That's the hard part. So all of us can sit here and talk
That
about
wasn't her
this and the
question.
other.
Wait, but that wasn't her question. Like, what are you doing? Like, you're defending him. Okay, cool. But like, her question was, why were you just like attacking people as conspiracy theorists or saying something's fake when people create a question? Like,
Because
again,
they are.
that's what you're doing.
Because they are.
But like, she's asking.
Alex is a conspiracy theorist.
And so she's asking.
He's known to be a conspiracy theorist, too.
I like him. He's a nice guy, but I mean, he's a conspiracy theorist.
So,
that's his whole brand.
Right. So when you dismiss people, when you dehumanize people, like you just.
Oh my god! Dehumanizing? Are you fucking kidding me? Calling somebody a conspiracy theorist is not the same as dehumanizing them. Not even close. Those are different. There's a Grand Canyon level difference between those two things.
Dehumanized Alex Jones
I'm not
on the stage.
I'm not. I
You
like
just
him.
treated him as lesser than a person.
I did not. Just me.
You treated him like
These guys are such fucking pussies. Holy shit, dude. If they are met with any backlash or pushback at anything, they crumble. Like a fucking, yeah, like they just crumble altogether. It's incredible how fragile they are. You're dehumanizing me by calling me names. Like, shut the fuck up, dude. Jesus Christ, you can't take the heat out of the kitchen.
lesser than a person to do that.
His brand is conspiracy.
Everything he says is fear. Everything he says is anger. It's all conspiracy.
I mean, it kind of is true,
That's what
though.
he said. But then you just agreed with it. And her point is that when you use that kind of language,
Dude, again, you know you've lost when what you're fixating on in the conversation isn't the central points, but rather the tone of the people delivering the points. Like, at that point, yeah, you basically aren't contributing anything to the conversation and are just coping.
You just did. That turned off all the people that might be interested in hearing your saying because you come across like kind of a jerk.
Right, I got you. That's fair. That's fair.
Can you guys hear me?
Dude, who cares if you come off as a jerk? If you're making dumb shit points, then you're going to be made fun of a little bit. Again, if you can't handle that, then maybe you can't handle having conversations in the marketplace of ideas.
You're right. I think the biggest thing, you're absolutely right. I think the biggest thing you have to do is draw common ground first and say, what's the problem we're all trying to solve? And give each other the credit to say, look, so let's take gun control. We don't like spree shooters. Everybody hates spree shooters. Everybody doesn't like somebody who comes in and just massacres everybody. Let's at least agree there. Let's honor the fact that we're both trying to solve a problem, even if you're on this side or that side. And you're right. And I think that's very important to not just say, you're a gun nut, well, you're a pussy. You know, that's what you hear, and then the conversation's over, right? So I think to your point.
I'm so glad I skipped to this point.
But I do think Destiny is at least engaging, wouldn't you say? He's not?
What's he not engaging with?
I give Destiny.
He's not engaging with the conspiratorial, like, shit that they're talking about. Yeah. They just want to sit here and whine and bitch and moan about conspiracy theories, and then Destiny's like, can we actually talk about things that matter? And then they're like, you're not engaging with my conspiratorial thinking, buddy. Like, yeah, okay. Yeah, no shit, dude.
Oh, wait. Go to the next.
Go to the next.
I give him all the credit in the world for being
over you right now, but
here.
the host
Seriously,
wants
I do.
questions
Seriously.
asked.
Sorry. Who was
All
that?
right, sorry about that. So I'll try to make it quick. To Destiny's point about what do you want to do about it? I heard a lot of people say that we have the government censor people, we can't have Twitter censor people, but nobody ever talks about whether or not the company has First Amendment rights when it comes to free association. So if you want to have a certain rule in place for Twitter, Facebook, Rumble, I don't give a shit, whatever you use for social media, how would you go about that without violating the First Amendment freedom of association section that is as it is currently understood? Thank you.
I'm happy to
Defer to the lawyer.
take that one. So, lunch counters can claim that they have a First Amendment right not to include, blacks or whites or whoever because of their expression as...
What? Lunch counters? Wait, I'm sorry. What does he mean by lunch counters? I just thought of like people sitting at a lunch table in like school or something. Like what?
As a white lunch counter. We don't accept that. We accept that businesses have basic non-discrimination obligations. In California, that includes not discriminating against political groups you don't like, as in Virginia.
I love how he meanders from having laws that discriminate based upon race to the laws discriminating against people who are Republican.
As in the Virgin Islands, as in the city of Seattle. So we're just applying these principles that every other business in the world has to apply to social media, and that's not wrong. Number two, and it's a deeper question, is nobody looks at Twitter and it's like, oh, I want to see what Elon Musk feels about what my mother just posted. No, you go to social media to see the views and expressions of your friends and family. The social media as a
that is completely untrue. First off, it's not just the fact that you're going there to like participate with friends and family. You're also, some people are on social media for the sake of consuming like just either news or I use social media a lot actually for talking about sports and keeping up with sports shit. It's not just like I don't even really talk to my family on social media, nor do I talk to like any friends really. It's more so like engaging with like random people about shared interests, not like, yeah.
Like the local news that presents an editorial. It's more like the telephone company. The telephone company doesn't present a view. Doesn't have any First Amendment rights either.
Well, hold on. I feel like
First Amendment rights are the friends we made along the way.
Discriminating on like race and stuff. Those are like defined protected classes. I don't think political speech is like a defined protected class in the federal government. I don't think without.
Yeah. That's exactly what I said earlier. Except it was a different point. But yeah. The things that he listed are this guy. This is the second time he's done it, by the way. He listed innumerable characteristics that are protected classes under law to political ideologies. Those who are Republican specifically, because in his mind, I would presume he thinks that Republicans are being targeted based on their ideology from social media companies, and they're subsequently banned. But for the most part, it's them being banned for engaging in the violation of TOS.
I don't think in California it's defined as a protected class.
Well, you're right. I never said it was defined
Well,
by
sure,
the
but
federal
I'm saying like
government.
Twitter right now, as it stands, I don't think Twitter can ban you from the platform for being black. I don't think they can do that. I'm
Yes,
pretty
they can. In fact, I was arguing in court with Twitter's lawyer, who said we have the right to get rid of all gay people. And then he said, of course we wouldn't do that, Your Honor. But they say they have the right to do it. It's a private company.
I thought my understanding. Okay, guys.
I-
Go to the next question. Sorry.
No, that's not even true, dude. Like, they are protected. Like, these are protected classes. You can't just, like... Maybe it depends on how you define the discrimination part, but, like... Yeah, I don't know if that's true.
Trust the lawyer.
But this does fall under.
Trust the lawyer, who's also, like, deeply partisan.
You would need a new
Okay,
legislation
guys,
to
okay,
apply.
guys. So Twitter has more or less adopted a combination of FARA and open source information to label news media platforms. There was the big thing about NPR being labeled state media, which I think is hilarious. So considering that Congress and the Subversive Activities Control Board established a rubric to determine if a U.S.-based political party or organization was classifiable as subversive, would it be a violation of free speech principles to label the social media accounts of those people involved in political strategies developed by foreign states, such as the Venezuelan government-affiliated Party for Socialism and Liberation, Workers' World Party, and Black Lives Matter?
Wait, I need to hear that question again.
Trust the lawyer.
But this does fall under common carrier laws.
Okay, so
and you would need a new legislation to apply.
So Twitter has more or less adopted a combination of FARA and open source information to label news media platforms. There was the big thing about NPR being labeled state media, which I think is hilarious. So considering that Congress and the Subversive Activities Control Board established a rubric to determine if a U.S.-based political party or organization was classifiable as subversive, would it be a violation of free speech principles to label the social media accounts of those people involved in political strategies developed by foreign states, such as the Venezuelan government-affiliated Party for Socialism and Liberation, Workers' World Party, and Black Lives Matter?
My understanding is that illegality comes from misrepresenting themselves. So, like, if you have an account called, like, I'm the Russian media account, and then I'm starting to post stuff, even if it's misinformation about the United States, I think that's on the up and up. You're okay to do that. I think the problem is when they misrepresent themselves as U.S. citizens or U.S. entities.
Yeah, no, I think that's right. Although, I would be that's an interesting, difficult issue you put your finger on. There's two sides of it. On one side, government's just disclosing information. That's good and helpful. On the other hand, if they abuse it and you are unfairly labeled as a subversive, that's chilling on speech. So I hate to be lawyers, that's a tough line to draw. I could see regimes in which they're fully transparent, in which people have the right to dispute and challenge their designations as being fair, but it's ripe for abuse.
All right, we got like 3 more minutes.
And by far, we should say, by the way, while we're here, that the government that spreads the most foreign disinformation about their political adversaries is the United States government. Throughout the Middle East, throughout Eastern Europe. I mean, this is very, very clear.
My question, maybe you've already partly answered it. Do you think the Twitter files were handled correctly? And if not, what would you do in the future to prevent whatever wrongdoing happened with the Twitter files?
I would honestly, this is something where I disagreed with the strategy. I would have loved to see much more of an open source database where people could go into and, take off people's personal, email addresses, phone numbers, that kind of thing. But
what? Does he know what the Twitter files were even, like, okay.
I didn't like the idea that even though we got a lot of emails, there was still this filter of the people who were there. So to Destiny's point, maybe there were emails that we don't know, right? We just literally don't know what we don't know. And I would have much preferred a more transparent version.
And we have nothing about the present as well. We have nothing about the present day situation. Like, what's the conversation with Twitter, between Twitter and the government, like, today?
I'd love to know.
Also,
why do you need to know that?
Right? Like, we get all this information, and I always worry that you find all this stuff out, and then we just move on to the next subject, and everybody gets.
I feel like half the time these guys are like, I need to know everything that's going on in every facet of a social media platform and the government. And then well, okay, what are you gonna do with this information? And they never really talk about that part. Like, okay, you want full transparency and open source, great. Are you gonna go in there on a daily basis and keep track of what's happening, or yeah, what are you gonna do about it?
With it, nothing happens.
All right, last question.
So this question is for Jack. Cool. You're a conservative, principled defender of free speech. You're a critic of government overreach. So I was wondering if you'd be willing to publicly condemn.
Okay, this is not a
Twitter
good
files,
place
Matt
to be.
Taibbi, Michael Schellenberger, testimony before Congress.
Condemn them?
Say what?
To condemn them?
To condemn the authoritarian censorship of Twitter by Donald Trump and the Trump White House during his presidency.
When Trump asked them to take down a negative comment, or when someone in the Trump White House asked him to take down a negative comment,
or when Matt Taibbi said,
I think it was silly.
That's not what authoritarian means,
silly,
but
or is it censorship?
It's not the same thing as taking down the Hunter Biden laptop. No, it's not authoritarian.
I didn't ask you if it was the same. I asked you if it was authoritarian censorship and if you'd be willing to condemn it.
I'm glad that Twitter didn't do it. Yeah, I think it was a stupid
Was
move.
it wrong for him to request it?
I don't think Twitter or anybody should be requesting takedowns on Twitter. 100%.
Including
What? People should be allowed to do that? Yeah? Like, you can say it's dumb or not grant the request or whatever, that's fine. But, like, not even be able to, like, request? Like, that's kind of stupid.
sitting president of the United States.
If it's Donald Trump, if it's me, if it's you, I don't care.
And what about when Taibbi said in the first Twitter files that the Trump White House made multiple requests to it? It wasn't just the Chrissy Teigen tweet. It was multiple requests.
A lot of what Taibbi like reported in there was either false, or misrepresentative. He was exposed kind of like by Hassan, Mahdi Hassan, not like the Twitch guy.
He already did. I literally just said I agree. They shouldn't have done that.
All right, give everyone a round of applause.
He just keeps going.
Just want to say, folks, have a great night. Thank you to Bill. Thank you to Minds. Folks, you have to remember that a chimp in the state of nature will never masturbate, but when you put it in a cage, it will.
Promo code Tanya. Promo code Tanya.
Thank you guys for coming out to Minds
What?
Fest. How about a round of applause for this panel?
Wow. Okay. That sounds like it's it. Yep. Perfect. Well.
AAA trusts
Whoa.
T-Mobile to be their exclusive.
Shut up. We're done with that. We are done with Diablo. Okay. Well, what did we learn today? We learned that Alex Jones is crazy. I don't think that was novel information though, and we also took away that a lot of these guys are more concerned about like propagating conspiracy theories, and regressing to their same dialogue tree. They really don't have like anything else outside of that. Like they don't live a meaningful life if they aren't doing those things, which is kind of sad in a way, but like at the same time, they've gone down that rabbit hole and have become radicalized to a point where they truly believe what they're saying, right? So, now I'm more so speaking towards the people who express sentiments similar to that of Alex Jones. Again, in a way it is sad, but at the same time, like, there has to be some agency bestowed upon those people who are going down those rabbit holes. But yeah, again, like, something I've learned from this conversation, I don't watch, like, Alex Jones a lot, but, like, it really didn't seem like he cared that much about the conversation itself. He just had, like, some things that he wanted to, like, some, like, wedge things he wanted to, like, focus on and push his kind of conspiratorial thinking about. Like, if challenged or if called out on being conspiratorial, he will, get very triggered over it, which is interesting because conservatives are the same people who love to, cry about the fact that liberals are getting triggered over everything as well. So, projection aside, I think that this is a really, I don't know, like, the conversation was kind of, like, I don't know, redundant. They just kept looping about the same shit over and over again, and, it's amazing, because I skipped forward in that conversation just now, in that video, rather, and they were still talking about basically the same thing, it seemed like, revisiting the same points, rather, but, yeah, I don't know, these guys are known to be kind of, like, they're known conspiracy theorists and known to be crazy and shit, so, I guess I should have had more adjusted my expectations, I guess. Anyway, with that, though, we're going to call it a stream, and we'll probably just stream next week, same as usual. So, thank you guys.